4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right, baby let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
Warning, you are about to enter a territory that's designated by men for all men. And while my platform is clearly designated for all men, many times I will be talking about issues that are endemic only to men of the ADOS descent. If you are a woman coming into the Kosher Clinician Show, understand that these topics are topics that are more or less salient to male issues. You need to be mature, you need to be open-minded, you need to listen. To those that think that because they come or allow women to come into space, that this space will be compromised for the sake of beauty, image, or more or less chicanery of any form, you will be greatly deceived. My platform is designed to empower men and to empower good women that are trying to find resolve. And while my channel is designated primarily for the functioning of male rights and male empowerment, it is good and clear for balance to hear a different perspective. You have been warned. If listening to the Kosher Clinician is not advantageous to your psyche, please exit left.
Pain. I've been there, locked up inside my head, broken from fear, illusions, disappointment, and hopelessness. Who heard me in my silence, where being a man means nothing? Despair. I've been there too, desperately seeking answers for the questions associated with manhood, hills and valleys, too bleak to compare. Stress, suffering in a utility silo, no comfort, no security, no freedom, no justice, just do it for others. Challenges, who will help me break the challenges? Lost in the vortex of darkness, hopelessness, fear, and abandonment. I've been there too. I've been there too. Take the next step to your destiny. Join me in this fight. Walk forward. Deep breaths. Head held high, men. Come join me, men, in the winds of time. Stories, hopes, visions, purified in the fire. I'm not a superhero, and I'm not the Reverend Knight. I'm here to help you. Join me, men, in this fight. Break the chains of your mind. Let's do it now. For now is all we have. Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician. Who told you that you couldn't rise from the morass of your current situation? Who told you that you had to be a slave to the pain of your past? Who told you that you had to settle for mediocrity in this current culture called America? Who told you that you couldn't change your mind? Talk to me. Now's the time for empowerment. And I'm not the Reverend Knight. I'm the Kosher Clinician.
addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I might rent the Lambo and go drive it like it's stolen. I've been living wild, I'm just going through the motions. Stumbling out the Uber, grab my hand, gave me the notion. Swimming in your water, but it feels just like the ocean. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time,
all right, guys. We're going to have a powerful conversation on tonight. I got the talented Angry Man bringing it to you live from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State, where he and I both reside. And we're going to drop some fire for your mind on tonight.
Fire!
This show is going to be talking about the psychology of sign language. Sign language, guys, is something that some or many women use to corral you into thinking like them. But if you're not aware of the negative impact of sign language, you will become a slave to the psyche of a woman that's using manipulation, chicanery, and foolishness to control you. I got my man, Angry Man, in the house. Angry Man, how you doing, brother?
What's going on? It's good with you, brother.
No doubt, brother. It's a pleasure to have you back here on this platform, man, as we try to bring balance and clarity to this conversation. You know, Angry Man, we living in very turbulent times to say the least. Times that test the souls of men, as men are often under a lot of pressure as it relates to heteronormative masculinity. When you think about sign language, what does sign language mean to you? And before you talk about that or pontificate that, tell the audience who you are and why you're so passionate about the empowerment of men, especially men of color.
Well, everybody, if you don't know, I'm the Angry Man. I've been here on YouTube, basically fighting for men's rights, advocating for men since 2015. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because we live in a day and age where men are no longer revered the way they once were. Men are not encouraged to strive for greatness. If anything, they're encouraged to be more subordinate to their female counterparts, which kind of puts everything in a backward state because it goes against the natural order of things, which is why we find ourselves in a lot of the situations we find ourselves in. So the reason why I'm passionate about it is because, you know, I grew up seeing what men are supposed to be compared to what they're turning into. So when you have that contrast, you can look around and kind of tell why things are spinning out of control.
When you think about sign language, we're going to get into it, but before we talk about it, shout out to my man, Shannon Ross, for the $5 super sticker. Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate it. Shout out to our man, Uncle Stu, the old man on the block, for the $5 super sticker as well. I appreciate it, Uncle Stu. Thank you, sir. But these conversations, Angry Men, are very important. I always tell men that they have more power than they realize. But see, when you are trying to bring balance to this force that we're having here in America, many times, Angry Man, you have a lot of hyena simps. And those hyena simps, Angry Man, many times, man, seek to subvert the order of true heteronormative masculinity. And what you're saying, brother, is so profound, man. I got something for you, man. In a few minutes, man, it's going to shock you. My niece actually got married to a Ghanaian. The Ghanaian brother, got a beautiful home. She's a beautiful young lady. And they have order. The men in Ghana and Nigeria and all those countries, they have more order. Now, is liberalism trying to creep into those areas as well? Yes, it's in some pockets, but overall, the men lead. They don't tolerate the disrespect that we tolerate here in America. And that's why I tell men got to come together, masculine men, come together and form an alliance. As I said before in the past, I said, watch this. I said, whereas men, we may not agree on all things or ideologies, but tonight we come together as allies of a common cause, only to dissipate once the crisis is over. There's a crisis, the Angry Man, in America as it relates to male rights, as it relates to male empowerment, and as it relates to the silencing of the masculine. And many times, Angry Man, it looks like sign language. Kevin Samuels coined it, and I got a parrot to it, but Kevin Samuels coined it, and he said it was shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. And the counter to that is something I created myself, something called death. I'm going to do a show on that tomorrow. It's called death psychology. And death stands for they deny the evidence when you present it to them, Angry Man. They become enraged when you present them with the evidence. They argue to ad hominem attacks, meaning they attack the messenger instead of the message. And then what happens on the end, they fight or flee, Angry Man, because they can't hear what you're saying. And many times they can't hear what you're saying, Angry Man, is because of this. They got cognitive dissonance, angry man. And I came up with a term called meta madness. That's going to be part of my series, meta madness. And meta means to be aware of your own cognitive processes, according to clinical psychology. And I'm going to show you the definition of it in the audience real quick. But it's meta madness because you will ask yourself the question, what were they thinking about, the angry man, when they did what they did? And then you got to ask the men, what are they thinking about, the angry man, when they allow the behaviors of some of these modern women? They allow behaviors that other men in other countries would never tolerate. And when our men are not aware of what's going on, the angry man, they will become a slave to their own ignorance. So we're going to look up the word metacognition. And I created a term called meta madness. It's a parrot to metacognition. And so basically it means awareness and understanding of one's own thought process, metacognition, to think about what you're thinking about. And so you will ask them, what were they thinking about to allow the disrespect? And why is there meta madness? Because you would think that a person that's a cerebral and a person that's on their square will have the cognitive faculties to think about what they're thinking about instead of being a slave to their own ignorance. And so these conversations are very important, the angry man, because as I said earlier, we're living in troubled times. Now, if I had to parrot it through the lens of theology, would you say that sign language is a sign of the times? And if it is a sign of the times, how did we get here?
Oh, it's definitely a sign of the times. How we've gotten here is, unfortunately, you're already dealing with people. When you're dealing with the female sex, you're already dealing with a group of people that are manipulative by nature. It's an evolutionary thing where, when you're the less strong physically of the two sexes, you have to get the things you want in a different way. Back in the day, men got things they wanted through brute force, and then later we moved into more debate and using our words and swaying people with our arguments. But all throughout history, women have had to get the things they need by coercing or manipulating men into doing certain things for them.
Right.
So now that we live in a society where women can pretty much do things for themselves, it doesn't really matter because we've lived for so long with the former than the latter. So women are still used to being able to manipulate men to get what they want. The only problem is when we end up in a society where men are not leading the women, there's no control for that particular behavior. There's no it's kind of like when you have some sort of thing that regulates, fluid or regulates, a certain process happening. Men have always been the control for that regulation. So women have gotten to the point where they're just, it's just like somebody putting their foot on the gas pedal and just pressing it all the way to the floor.
Right.
There's nobody stopping them from doing what they're doing. And the crazy thing about it is, because of female nature, a lot of times they don't even realize they're the harbingers of their own destruction.
Yes.
It isn't until after, the smoke clears and they look around and they're like, wow, this is really messed up. And the crazy thing about it is, even in that moment, they're not going to say, I got here because of what I did. They're going to say, why didn't some man stop me?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So even then, you're still dealing with, and like I tell guys, female nature, in a lot of cases, it's not malicious.
Right.
They just can't help it. You know what I'm saying? They can't help it. They do what they do, but we live in a society now where we have this whole female empowerment movement. And so now the things that women naturally do that they themselves don't even fully understand, it's being pawned off as if it's female empowerment.
Right.
So, it's like if you do something wrong and then somebody celebrates it, it's something you did wrong by accident, but because somebody celebrated, it's like, I meant to do that. You know what I'm saying? And then it goes from just being natural female behavior to being female behavior with a motive.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and which is dangerous. Which is dangerous because men, you know, we have our own little thing when it comes to that. Men, because we are in a position of power or we have power, our power has to be regulated with control, discipline, wisdom. You know, so if we lived in a world where men were behaving like this, where we just allowed our base function and the way that we naturally operate to just run wild, the world would be in total chaos. It would
Yes.
be a horrible place to live in, you know.
Mhm.
But the thing with women with the sign language thing, and I haven't had a chance to see that particular video that Kevin did.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure I got an idea of what he's talking about. I'm sure he's talking about some form of gaslighting,
Right.
basically trying to use this. This is what I've noticed personally. You tell me what you think about this.
Yeah, go ahead,
What
brother.
I've noticed is that men, regardless of what they say about us in this day and age, men have always had a benevolent nature.
Yes.
Where when we feel like we're in a position of power, you know, those of us that are sane, those of us that have common sense, when we're in a position of power, we don't try to abuse that power.
Right.
You know, we try to be as fair as we possibly can. And what I've been noticing in this day and age is that women seem to recognize that. They seem to understand that. And now it's like the worst of them take full advantage of it.
Right. Right.
You know?
Right. And you see it manifest in a lot of women, and sadly, some are older women as well, angry man. I'm gonna ask you a question and you tell me what you think is true. But is it safe to say Aunt Esther was the original arbiter of sign language? Before you say so, I need you to watch this.
What did we do to her? You mean what did she do to us? She had the nerve to call us witches. And she was right. You three ugly witches.
Woo!
Yeah.
So was Aunt Esther, you know, and this is gonna be powerful, angry man. This is gonna be real powerful. You're gonna see where I'm going in. I'm gonna guide you. I got you, brother. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna guide you to the promised land. You know, I know you didn't really prep for it, but you're an intelligent brother and you can think on your feet. But I'm gonna guide you into the promised land. But when you think about sign language, I think Aunt Esther was the original arbiter of sign language in modern times. And we never look at it like that. But she was the true arbiter of sign language, the shame, the insults, the guilt, and the need to be right. What say you about Aunt Esther? Before you answer that, guys, get the likes up. I need you guys to get the likes up for me. If you have not subscribed, go subscribe to The Angry Man, but also subscribe to my channel. Hit all notifications. And also, what I need you guys to do, please donate to the channel. The Angry Man is a content creator like myself. That brother be sometimes doing 2 and 3 shows a day. I don't know how you do it. but I'm a therapist. I'm a licensed clinical therapist, and I try to get it in when I can. And if you know anything about content creation, Angry Man will tell you it's hard work. It's very hard planning and putting things together. So if you guys like what I'm doing, share the content. Donate to the channel. Donate, because if you donate, then that means that you are liking what I'm trying to do as I bring balance and order to the struggles that men have. It's important, the Angry Man, to support male content. It's very important because there are not too many people that are advocating for male rights, especially a licensed clinical therapist. So if you guys like what I'm doing, go check out the Angry Man, but also subscribe to my channel and also donate to the channel, because it helps me become a better person and it helps keep me on point. But back to Aunt Esther. Was Aunt Esther the original arbiter of sign language? And is she a granny serpent? You know, people think that Aunt Esther was a righteous woman, but I would argue that she's a granny serpent. Shout out to my man Top Gun. He came up with that word, the granny serpent. And that she's the arbiter, the Angry Man, of sign language, in your opinion.
She's one of them.
Okay.
She's one of many.
One of many, yes, sir. Break it down.
What I noticed during that, that's when we really got prepped for that. You know, because they use television programs. You know, it's a television program. It's programming. So what they do is they use television shows and certain storylines and certain characters to try to socialize us into thinking that that's the norm. And Aunt Esther, she was only one of many. You had Esther, you had Florence from the Jeffersons, who was
Right. Florence, right.
constantly insulting George Jefferson, even though he was her boss.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just her that was doing it. Wheezy did it to George. Like you
Right.
all throughout our our television shows, especially in the 70s, you had JJ's sister that was constantly doing that to him, insulting him, calling him all types of names and stuff.
Excellent point. Excellent points. Yes, sir. Excellent.
So
Excellent.
all throughout and I'm talking about that era because some of the people that's watching are probably too young. Some of them people are probably too young to remember that particular era.
Right.
That's the era when we first started having a lot of black television programming.
Yes, sir.
And so in that first era, you sort of see that archetype, just like Esther of the the black women that are constantly insulting black men and that are
Right.
sassy or whatever. You
Right.
look at what's happening. You had Roger's sister
Right.
that was doing that. So
Yes, sir. Excellent.
it was
Excellent.
all throughout our program. And so yeah, definitely.
Excellent expose, man. Shout out to my man XL Pro. XL Pro is always showing love for the $5 cash app. Thank you, brother. Shout out to my man Drew M4.
That next one is a troll. That's not me right there. That dropped that $4.99.
Oh, that's not you.
Yeah, that's a troll right there.
Okay, I'm sorry, man. Shout out to Drew for the $5 $5 on my session. And then shout out, and that's not the angry man, that's a troll. He said, I love being a stepdad. Another man's seeds make me happy. I guess he's being funny. Shout out to him. Thank you for being a troll if you're trolling, but thank you for the $5, the clone of the angry man. I appreciate it, man. But these conversations are important, guys, and that's why I need you guys to, once again, to donate and share the stream. But we're gonna take it a step further. I got something for you guys. I got some fire for your mind on tonight. I got some fire. And you guys gonna learn what I got in store for you. And I'm gonna guide the angry man to the promised land. And one of the things I love about the angry man, he can think on his feet. He's an intellectual guy. I listen to him. I said, okay, he got that Libra swag, and it complements the philosophical nature of me being a Leo. So I love his balance. It's not too many people that can think on their feet.
Mhm.
Where did you get that from, man? Have you always been that way? Were you in STEM, or it just read a lot? Maybe you read a lot. I don't know what it is.
No, I just been like that ever since I was a kid.
Right.
Just been like, I do read a lot, but I've always been really perceptive, and I've always seemed to have the ability to notice certain things that a lot of people it passes by them, but I'll notice it, and I'll point it out. Now, I mean, to me, it's just something that I notice. It's just normal. But, a lot of times people tell me, wow, I didn't even notice that, So it's just been that way since I was a kid.
Excellent. Yeah, I've always been a thinker too. Very cerebral. They used to call me the philosopher when I was a kid, man. I don't know why, but I've always been very philosophical. I tend to look at things do the greater panoramic and the greater kaleidoscope. But I like what Shannon Rawls said. He said, Walona of Good Times. I forgot all about her. She was definitely one of them. No, good point, Shannon Rawls. She was definitely one of them. And sign language, many times the angry man causes a lot of men to be in a state of despair. And many times we could argue, angry man, that, when men are, caught up in being victims of sign language, angry man, they could be this. Yeah, it could be witchcraft, and I remember I don't know who was the brother man that talked about it, but he was talking about how a lot of women now are actually using witchcraft to seduce and to control men, and sign language could be seen as a verbal form of witchcraft, but also it can also be because these men are spellbound.
And masculine men can see through that. And I think the angry man, because we don't see masculine men anymore. We don't see masculinity personified in power. When masculine men begin to speak and speak with authority, then they will castigate you and say, "Oh, he's mean." The angry man is mean because he speaks very vociferously. He speaks with clarity. He speaks with great conviction. But I've never understood why some folks say, "I love the Lord and I love Jesus," but Jesus spoke with great authority. When he saw the woman at the well, he said, "Go and sin no more." He didn't say, "Woman, stop sinning." He said, "Go and sin no more," because he was a masculine man. But we live in a time where fatherhood is so devoid of seeing true heteronormative masculinity. Many men sexuality, but also masculinity have been arrested. And many times the angry man, they won't talk about it many times in clinical sessions. Many don't advocate for the love and the stewardship of men. And I had a situation where a young man said, I was thinking about getting another therapist because he said that, you're too masculine. I was like, "I'm too masculine? What do you mean?" But they're not used to it, man. I know because I'm a big dude, but we're not used to seeing men be men anymore. And it's time for men to corral together, lay aside a lot of differences. We're not going to agree on all philosophy. We're not going to agree on all ideologies, and that's okay. I don't argue with men on their worldviews. If that's your worldview, that's your worldview. I respect it. I might not agree with it, but I can respect your worldview. But we got to come together as allies of a common cause and get to the core issue, white men, black men, all men, because there is a crisis, the angry man in heteronormative masculinity. So we're going to go more deep into this conversation. We're going to get into the rabbit hole, because when you look at the world, angry man, it looks like the Twilight Zone. That's why I use that on my thumbnail, because the Twilight Zone is a form of meta madness. And as people continue to go down the rabbit hole, it gets darker and darker and darker and darker and darker and darker, to the point, the angry man, what was normal when we were kids now is seen as abnormal. Good is bad and bad is good. Down is up and up is down. And so when you say what you say, you're just saying what was normal 15 to 20 years ago. It was just normal talk. I'm saying, it was just normal. But it's like we're in this dark vortex, the angry man, that now we're so deep in the dark vortex that when men begin to tell their story, nobody want to hear what men are saying. They don't want to hear. And that's why I took it upon myself, being a licensed therapist, to empower men. I'm doing something, the angry man, that most won't do. Many of my colleagues won't even do it because it's not PC. Sometimes I ask myself the question, why are you doing it? And that's why I tell you guys to share these streams. I tell you guys to help me grow this platform, help me get it to as many young men as possible. Because a lot of men are not only suffering in silence, you became the angry man. You became an alter ego because you were suffering in silence because nobody heard your story and nobody heard your pain. And I said it before in the past, the angry man, that a broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is very dangerous. And you talked about it in part on the last time I had you on my platform about brokenness and hopelessness. Let's go back in time and talk about a time when science psychology was used on you as a man to control you, frustrate you, and leave you in a state of despair and peril.
Oh yeah, there were. I remember one time where a friend of my children's mother, said some really disparaging things towards me. It just came out of nowhere. Like she did not know our situation. She didn't know how our household was structured. So she just made the assumption, because black women, they have this assumption that all black men that are in relationships with black women, they're not the breadwinner. They just automatically assume that the woman is the breadwinner and the woman is the one that has everything together. So they'll make statements that are meant to make you feel as though you're not sufficient. They'll say things like, "Oh, well, if it wasn't for so and so, you wouldn't be straight. If it wasn't for this, or if it wasn't for that," things that are completely not true. But regardless, you know how it is with a lie. If somebody tries to say it over and over again,
right,
it'll get to the point psychologically where you'll start questioning. So I've had situations like that. I've seen dudes go through situations like that. Hell, I've even seen situations where there was a woman that was in a relationship with a guy that I know, and he couldn't get a job
Right.
because he needed to get a new ID. His ID had expired, and in order for him to get a new ID, he had to send off for his birth certificate. And I found out by happenstance, after his girlfriend was berating him about not having a job. And he was like, "Well, the only reason I don't have a job is because I don't have ID." She was like, "Well, why don't you get your ID?" And he's like, "Because I'm waiting for my birth certificate to come in the mail." She's like, "Oh, that's just an excuse. You just a lazy Negro," and da 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 da, just going off on him, right?
Mhm.
And I told him, I said, "I don't even know why you put up with that." And the funny thing about it is, I later found out because I overheard his girlfriend talking to somebody else. His birth certificate had already came in the mail, and she was hiding it.
Mm.
And I was like, "Wow!" And I sat back and I was trying to figure out why she was doing that. And then it struck me. I was like, the reason why she's doing that to him is probably because she thinks if he gets a job and actually starts making some money and doing better for himself, he won't tolerate her crap anymore and leave.
Yeah, right, right,
You know,
right, 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 right.
so there's a bunch of different things that I've noticed that they do, which is really egregious. But what's even worse is they'll do it and then they'll play innocent,
Hmm.
to put them in the position to where they can, like, one of the things that bothers me the most about black women specifically is they fully understand what men, specifically black men, have to go through in this country. And in spite of that, they still use the negative stereotypes to push their narrative.
Right.
So they'll still say, even though, it's already been proven that black men are good fathers, they'll still say things like, "That's why y'all don't take care of y'all's kids."
Right. Right.
It's like they're repeating propaganda. And the only reason they're repeating the propaganda is because they know it fits the narrative that they're trying to push in order to keep you in a state of mental helplessness.
Right. 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 I agree with that. It's almost like it gives them power, but also it justifies their pathology. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you something, Angry Man. A lot of people and a lot of women, uh, they're very comfortable in their delusion. Some of these simps are very comfortable in their delusion as well. They think it's normal to be delusional because they don't have any balance. Let me read out these super stickers real quick, and we're gonna get back into it. Shout out to my man. Picasso the Magnificent. What's poppin', G? Angry Man is the GOAT. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Shout out to the Angry Man clone. He said, "I'm so intellectual that I threaten people when I lose debates." Catch a flight. I don't know what that means. But shout out to him, the clone of the Angry Man. Shout out to him. And also shout out to my man Top Gun. Top Gun said that let's get these likes up. These streams are important and need the algorithm and our support. More importantly, you may proceed. Shout out to that brother. Much love and respect to Top Gun. And then shout out to my dear friend, the sweetie. I appreciate Elisa Del Rosario. She said that, hello, kosher clinician, not trying to tell you how to run your show, but could you give a heads up before you show scary stuff? So I can look away. And that's a deal, right? I got you, sweetie.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
But I appreciate it, Alicia. Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate that.
Deal, right?
And we need more women like her. We need some of these sisters that that are supportive of male rights. And I did the warning sign, Angry Man. People think because I allow women to come on my platform, he's simping and all this goofy ish. He's simping and all this goof. But if there are women that are good sisters, and listen, good is subjective because we know that some women are chameleons. I'm not stupid, but if they're trying to learn and grow and listen, I'll allow them to talk. If their mouths get slick, they can get this work. But I don't mind a woman coming on trying to get clarity and insight. We know some are trying, and we know that some are chameleons and some are trying to subvert what we're trying to do as men. But the sign language has become very incessant now. But I think a lot of men, the Angry Man, is moving away from it. But what you're seeing now with a lot of these women They can't hear what we are saying because they think their delusions are right. They think that what they are seeing, the angry man, the delusions are normal. And in the clinical world, we call it ego syntonia. A syntonic ego basically means that they think that how they feel is how they're supposed to feel. Many women, many people that have delusional personality disorders, they think that that's normal. They think that their pathology is normal. And we live in a very dark culture now because many actually mire in their pathologies. What do you say about that? And before you say anything about it, I'm going to show you what ego syntonia like. Get ready, Alicia. Cover your eyes. Yeah, ego syntonia, and that's part of the meta madness. You will have to ask yourself the question in the clinical, what were they thinking about? What are they thinking about? And do you ever ponder the question, the angry man, when you see this dysfunctional behavior? Why are these people doing that? What are they thinking about? Why do they continue to mire in their ignorance? Do you ask the question when you look at things through the analytical lens?
I mean, at first I did, but now I know why they do it. It's because it's a mob mentality now. You have so many people that do it, and you have so many different cultural things that affirm it. So you have music that affirms it, you have television shows that affirms it. So nowadays the stereotype of the uh angry black woman with the attitude and all of these different things, that's become a norm.
Right.
So instead of it being just a stereotype or instead of it being a trope, it's become something to try to live by. And like I said, it goes back to those television shows where you see like they tried to make it comedy to have black women arguing back and forth with black men. You know, they tried to make it comedy, but see, because people watch that, they think, oh, that's how I'm supposed to behave. Like you even have that even when you go back to the Cosby Show with Rudy and Bud, or Sandra and Elvin, you know, or Claire Huxtable and Elvin, or Denise and Denise and Theo. Like, so you have this constant arguing between black men and black women, you know, that you don't really see. The only time you really saw it in other shows is with Married with Children, with Bud and Kelly, or Al and Marcy, but that show was written by a black guy. So, you know, he's kind of used to that with this whole back and forth. You know, even on Martin, you had it with Gina and not Gina, you had it with Martin and Pam. So there's this constant reaffirming that the way a black woman is supposed to function is to constantly be at odds with black men. So it's gotten to the point now where even when you try to explain to them that it's not conducive behavior, you know, everything else is telling them that it is. That's just the way you're supposed to function. In fact, you have I seen a TikTok recently where a dude called this chick and he said something in a joking way, and then she just started clowning him. He started clowning, calling him, you know, little D and all of this stuff. And he said, oh, wait, chill, hold on. And she's like, oh, my bad. I thought we were flirting.
Right.
So they think that arguing with you, you know, and going back and forth with you is actually flirting.
Right.
You know, and it's not. Like it's so much mental, you know, and I talked about this too. The biggest problem with a lot of the mental issues we have in the community is there are a lot of people that are qualified to examine it, but they don't want to examine it because if you're a white scientist, you're going to immediately be labeled a racist if you examine it. If you're a black scientist and you examine it, you're going to be labeled a sellout and a coon. They're calling it out. So you have a group of people who have all sorts of pathologies and all sorts of mental illnesses that just go unchecked, and it becomes so normal and so embedded in the culture that it's being passed down to each generation, and it's getting worse.
It's getting worse. Right. And kids are more at power or feel more better when they have stability and they have strong communities. But it's faltering, man. And I don't recognize the world that we live in. I see so much dysfunction as a licensed therapist, man. I see the protective factors for children broken down. And it's like we're living in a bizarro world. That's why I call this show and many of the streams coming up Meta Madness, because you ask yourself the question, what were they thinking about? Do they like the cognitive awareness of the angry man? They understand and realize that some of their behaviors are not conducive to themselves, but also the greater collective. In the meantime, shout out to my man, Jay Olaraffle, for that $3 PayPal. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Shout out to my man Aaron for the $5 super sticker. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And shout out to Top Gun for that $5 super sticker. He says the 90s show and single, the 90s show living single represents it as well, no doubt.
And I'll tell you something else they did.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I'll tell you something else they did too, which was really egregious.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and you look at all of those shows from the 80s and the 90s, where you see this interaction between black women and black men, they always picked a dark-skinned woman to argue with everybody.
Right.
They always picked the dark-skinned woman to argue with everybody. If you notice, the light-skinned women didn't really argue that much with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that was on purpose.
Why do you think that propaganda was on purpose, Angry Man? Why is that, in your opinion?
I think it's to discourage people. I think it's to discourage the attraction for darker skinned women.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was. I think it has to do with America wanting to assimilate everybody into a certain thought process, because it happens all over the world. We have this sort of caste system where people think that you'll have an easier life if you're lighter.
That's true.
So I think they were doing that on television because I one day I just noticed it because I like to watch, nowadays it ain't too much worth watching on TV. So I like to go back and watch some of the older shows.
Right.
Good Times, Martin, stuff like that. And I just started noticing it. Like, why is it why do they always make the darker skinned woman have the biggest attitude and make her the most obnoxious? Mm-hmm. And it makes me start to wonder, is that the reason why you see darker skinned women of this day and age functioning like that? Is that something that they learned from watching those television shows? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I think it's a combination of the television shows, a combination of internal hate. Because I just came back from a Ghanaian wedding, and I'm going to say there's some beautiful dark-skinned women in Ghana. I mean, gorgeous. I mean, the skin was so rich and chocolate and pretty, man. You would think you can eat off their skin. My niece literally got married. She married, chocolate brother. He's in IT. He's in the Army. And I'm going to show you guys some clips from it. And the young man and her are doing well. He bought our house. And, we're going to talk about some angry man also at some point about older men dating younger women. And, some people have consternation for it. But if a man is older, got money and status, and he could take care of his woman that's younger, I don't have a problem with it, because if you look at it biblically, Adam was older than Eve. If you think about it chronologically due time, he was years older. He was probably a couple centuries older, if you think about it, but we ain't gonna get into that right now. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of internalized hate, but you don't see that as much, I don't think, in other countries as you see it here. And I think it's getting better to some degree, but I've seen some beautiful chocolate women, man. And I think when our women love to love themselves and not become arbiters of their own hate, then, a lot of the issues that they're having would dissipate. But Anton Daniel said something, and I agree with Anton when you look at it in the broader context. And I want to say this slowly and clearly, because people will take what you say and run away with it.
Yeah.
When you look at the culture that we had, you came up with a concept called the Beano Nation, and I want you to talk about that. But Anton said something that brought forth a lot of consternation. And he said, the angry man, that the current culture that we live in is trash. And so some people say, the angry man, talking about black culture. And they didn't understand what he was talking about in context. But in context, I think the angry man is right. Compared to the culture that you and I had, and remember our ancestors from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when music was popping, love music was powerful. The 90s, you know, you and I grew up in the R&B era when rap music was more conscious, when gospel music was more powerful, everything was more powerful. To now, is it safe to say that what Anton Daniel said is true? Because when you put it in context, I'm going to say it again, when you look at it in the full context of it, I think Anton is right. It's not just the black culture is trash. The American culture is trash. What say you? What say you?
Definitely. The reason why I came up with the concept of Beano Nation is because I had to figure out a way to separate thinking black people. I had to figure out a way to separate black people of substance from the black people that just don't care.
Right.
They just, you know, they just don't care. Like it's ridiculous because you have people that they want to raise arguments about certain things that go on today, as opposed to, like, for instance, you have some of the younger guys. If I talk about certain rappers, they will immediately say, like, really, are you quoting rappers? But see, they live in an era where rappers ain't talking about them. You know, I grew up in an era of the Chuck D's. I grew up in an era of the KRS Ones, where that was our voice. You know, that was our voice for a very long time. Like the era I grew up in, most of our celebrities really were speaking for us and for our culture. They weren't tools of destruction, as they are now. You know, so, you know, back in the day, I look at the way our culture was, how rich it was, how important it was. You know, so you had the Harlem Renaissance. You had black people that were in jazz music. You had black people that were in the blues and rock and roll. You had black artists like Ernie Barnes. You had black speakers, black intellectuals like James Baldwin.
Right.
You know, you had all of these different aspects of black culture that was rich and is what caused us to be the leading group across the diaspora. Many black people across the world look to a lot of the people from America that are black for leadership and for different cues on doing certain things. But now, if you look at it, it's like, who do you like nowadays? Who do you have that are really doing significant things? If you have someone that tries to do something significant, they're immediately shut down. Like somebody like Ice Cube, you know, the contract with Black America, immediately shut down. You know, and the ones who ain't about nothing, they get put up in front of everybody. So you have somebody like Will Smith, who by all measure, you know, is a very accomplished guy, but he obviously has some issues that he's going through, but they have no problem putting him front and center, you know, for everybody to see and see his dysfunction on display. And, you know, you have people like Megan Thee Stallion, that's supposed to be representative of, you know, female empowerment. You know, you got all of this foolishness. You have that freaking song, F and F, this 20 million views. When I was coming up, that chick people would have laughed at that song. They would have laughed at her. She would have never been able to get that much attention, you know? So I had to figure out a way to separate us. So, you know, a lot of people, they hear that black in name only, and they immediately think it's some sort of sellout coon type stuff. No, what it is it's a group of black people that are saying, if today's representation of black is a rapper getting killed every week, if today's representation of black is women twerking on tables, if today's representation of black is black people falling for every trick in the book, every okey doke, and no, we don't want to be associated with that. We would rather be associated with what black was.
Right, what it was, right. What I
was.
remember. Yes, sir, right.
Yeah. So
Right.
in this day and age, we would have to be black in name only.
Black in name only, yes.
We don't represent what black folks are doing today or what black people think is cool today. You know?
I totally agree. Shout out to my man, Aaron. I appreciate it, Aaron. One of the most underrated channels I ran across. I appreciate it, man. It's a lot of work. I think it's somewhat underrated as well. But I'm gonna keep grinding until the name get out, and I think the Angry Man as well. You know, Angry Man, you were one of the original creators of the space for men. You did a lot of the groundwork. You were what I call one of the original generals of the manosphere. You started it or played a major role in building these platforms, and you know, one could argue that you're very underrated, as well as myself being a licensed therapist. But I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going because I know what my talent is. And, you know, sometimes, you know, people see your talent and they won't give you the props because secretly they're wrestling with their own insecurities and they know that you're good or maybe sometimes even better than them. But they don't want to tear you because they want you to think that they are better. It's a lot of psychological war and manipulation. But it is what it is. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to keep putting out the content, aligning myself up with conscious brothers like yourself. Laying aside the petty differences, the things we agree on, the things we don't agree. We do it in all in love and brotherhood and keep this thing moving because the young men, the Angry Man, need to know what normal was when we were kids growing up. And I'm gonna show you guys a clip real quick. I just got back from the wedding. My niece got married. And one of the things a lot of folks don't understand is this. In countries like Ghana, Accra, Nigeria, and a lot of those countries in West Africa, they still have culture. We had the black subculture, but then the greater American culture. We had the greater American culture, which was not always friendly to us. So we had to create our own culture. You know, Langston Hughes said, I think it was Langston Hughes, he said, they're taking my blues and now they've gone. I don't know, maybe it was Langston Hughes. I could be getting it wrong. But he said, they're taking my blues and now they've gone. And so we created a culture within the American culture that was superior to everybody else, the Angry Man, to the point everybody else had to emulate our culture.
Yep.
I'm going to say it again. We had to create a subculture within the greater American culture to the point that others had to emulate our culture. Because, see, they thought that because, you know, whether you were dark skinned or light skinned or whatever, they thought there was some level of inferiority. But many times black people have superseded the norms and the expectations of their detractors that came up with the spurious concept of race. And I'm going to talk about that at some point as well. But I want to show you guys a clip and we're going to talk about culture because the American subculture is dead. The culture that the Angry Man I remember is from the past. And to the single men that are watching, you know, if you haven't found your wife here in America, get your passport, go travel abroad, go get you a Ghanaian, get you a nice woman that's going to honor and respect you if you can't find your wife here in this toxic sex pool called America. So hold tight. Hold tight while this thing.
Money and status, don't continue to settle for mediocrity here in America. Get your passport, get you a black woman from the motherland. Get you a sister from the motherland if you can't find one here in America. And we know that many of them here in America don't believe in respecting men, so get you a sister from the motherland. So this is what culture looks like in Ghana. What's up, young brother? I look forward to talking with you.
All right, I just wanted to show you a little bit of that Angry Man real quick, and that's what culture looks like. You can hear the power of the ancestors, man. That's what culture looked like. It was so fluid, man. I've never seen nothing like that. And everybody say, if you ever go to the motherland, you'll feel at home, man. You'll feel at peace. And you know, I did an interview with some of the Ghanaian brothers, man, and like I said, my niece's husband, he's Ghanaian. And when I did my DNA ancestry, I'm about 15% Ghanaian. Cameroon, actually, Ivory Coast, Ghana, but mostly mostly Nigerian. I'm about 39% Nigerian. Then the rest is Cameroon, Congo, about 36, and then there's Ivory Coast, Ghana. Then Mali, Senegal. I'm 7% European, British, and German, which is
I'm about I'm about 34%. Most of my African heritage is Nigerian.
Right, right.
It's
Right.
Nigerian. I think Ghanaian that's about I think it's about 5 or 6%, something like
5 or 6%, right? Yeah, mine was about
that.
10 or 15%, but mostly Ghanaian. I mean, Nigerian. Actually, they said I look Nigerian. I said, well, if you had to look at me, they said you look like a Nigerian,
Yeah.
based on your build. And actually, some of the lighter skinned Nigerians look like you. I remember a Nigerian teacher. Her name was Ola Guchu or something like that. I used to work with, and she was light skinned just like you. And I said, wow, she's light skinned, but they're light skinned Nigerians and they're light skinned Ghanaians too. People assume that people of the diaspora are all dark, and they're not. You go to Northeast Africa, they're very brownish and reddish brown. But when you saw that, what was resonating inside your head? And before you say anything, shout out to my man Gregory Scotland for that $20 super stick. He said, Coach, I'm glad that you keep speaking on options for single men, no matter how much bubblegum headed they try to mock or criticize it. Oh, no doubt. I'm going to keep doing it, man. That's a deal.
That's a deal.
I believe in male empowerment. I do believe a man can find his wife here.
That's a deal,
Go
right?
for it.
That's a deal, right?
But if you can't find your wife in America, you go abroad. And folks get mad, angry man. I don't understand it. That at one point they said that you should be dealing with American women only. I mean, only black women. Okay, so fine. So when brothers say, okay, I'm gonna get me a black woman from another country, why the sign language? Do you notice that?
Because they do not want to compete.
Wow, talk about it. Say
it. They do not want to compete. They want women of this country that come from our culture. They practice dating and mating welfare. They want to have a monopoly on the men in this country. They don't want us to pursue other options because they're terrified that we might find out the grass is actually greener on the other side.
Yes, sir. Right.
So I've told brothers numerous times, like, look, if you can't, I've told brothers, I believe in the SYSBM movement. Like, if you can't find you a woman in this country, find you one somewhere else. Find you a woman of another culture. Find you a woman that, I mostly promote like Afro Latinas.
Yes.
But yeah, if you can find you a woman on the continent that actually is traditional, you would avoid a lot of the problems that you have in this particular in this culture, because they've lost, like, and it's crazy because I tell like a lot of the younger cats this, and sometimes I think they think that I'm lying, but I try to explain to them, like, when I was growing up, I saw women behave a certain way,
right,
that is drastically different
yes
from the way they behave today.
Right. Same here. I agree with you 1,000%, brother. Same here. Like same here.
I remember being a kid going to visit, I was a kid staying with my grandmother, and sometimes me and my grandmother would go visit. We would go to my uncle's house, which is her eldest son, and his wife would cook and serve everybody. And then when it was time to wash the dishes, my grandmother and my aunt would be going back and forth about who's going to wash the dishes. My aunt would go in there to wash the dishes, and my grandmother would beat her to it, and she'd be in there washing the dishes. And my aunt would be like, no, I got the dishes. You ain't got to wash the dishes. And she'd be like, no, I got the dishes. Don't worry about it. And, I was telling guys that, and a lot of younger guys were shocked, that two women would actually be arguing over who's going to serve and who's going to wash the dishes, but in a positive way, not arguing over they didn't want to do it, but arguing over, no, you don't have to do it. I'll take care of it. And it's just little things like that, because back in the day, women, they wanted to take care of their men.
Yes, right.
They wanted to take care of their men. And nowadays it's like, it's kind of like Chris Rock said. He said when he was a kid, his dad got the big piece of chicken, but he said he deserved a big piece of chicken. He said he can't go out and work that many hours and come home to a chicken wing. You know?
Right. And I totally agree. And Angry Man, I can't play all this for copyright strikes, but this is what I remember, and you remember, because you and I were kids of the '90s and the '70s. We had women like Shirley Brown.
Now you see, I don't want no trouble now. I hope you understand.
I had to stop it. But you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Shirley Brown. She said, I love that man. I did a show called All for My Man. And, I'm a firm advocate for men, all men, regardless of their race or ethnicity. But because black men have a unique circumstance here in America, I fight hard for them. I'm an advocate for white men, Asian men, all men. But I have a special place in my heart for men of ADOS descent, because our struggles, the Angry Man, are not like any other man in America. We've been through struggles that many have with more or less with a crumble under Jim Crow racism. But every time they tried to put us in the pressure cooker, we just adjusted our crowns and said, still we rise. We still kept rising. We still kept rising when they didn't give us the rights on the bus for fighting in World War II. We still kept rising when we came back from the wars in Vietnam. We still kept rising when they tried to silence us when we were more or less playing basketball and trying to get into white universities. We just keep adjusting our crowns as black men, and we keep rising. And I keep telling our men, if they learn how to modify, shout out to Mr. Palmer, he said, you got to change the law in your mind. And he's right. That's the most powerful quote of the century. Once you change the law in your mind, we call in the clinical world cognitive restructuring, then things will begin to look better and different for men. I'm an advocate for men. If you knew how much power that you have, if you knew the power of the collective brotherhood, that a lot of the struggles that you're having now, it will greatly dissipate. But so many men, because of our egos, we let our egos get in the way of the greater collective for the brotherhood. But we realize that we all have intrinsic worth, and we realize that we all have values, if we realize that everybody can be the captain, but more or less push the agenda, then we can become better. And I get it. Men by nature are competitive. I want to win. You want to win. I want to be the best of the best. I got a big ego. I ain't going to stunt. My ego is huge. I want to be the best of the best. I have a mindset that when I apply myself, nobody can see me. But I think all men should think that way. That's why games were so good, Angry Man, back when we were kids growing up with Tecmo Bowl and Madden and ColecoVision, because it was competition. Competition is good for men as long as it's in balance. Now, to the 134 that are watching, get the likes up. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Share the stream. If you have not donated, donate to Cash App $7 Smalls. I'm going to give a special shout out to all the brothers that always donate and show love. It's sadly the same ones all the time, and also the sisters. But I'm going to send a special shout out to the Alton Prayers, the Top Guns, the James Turners, the Nice sometimes, the James Miles, and many, many, many more that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. MC Recovery and Wellness, XL Pro. They always come to XL Pros everywhere. XL Pro is showing love to all the brothers. He showed you love. He showed Coach Greg Adams love. He's an excellent brother, and I appreciate it, XL Pro. And what men don't understand, Angry Man, when they help us, then it helps when they support the channel, it help us become more invigorated to put out more content, but also to become more creative and more or less getting this message out, because these messages many times come on deaf ears. And that's why, when we have these shows, many can't hear what we're saying. And part of that sign language, Angry Man, when we try to give them the truth, is this. They saw the gaslight when we tried to bring clarity to the conversation. And sign language is a part of gaslighting. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And a lot of guys fall for it, right, because they're so used to being gaslit. They're so used to being told one thing when it's really another. And, I tell guys all the time, stop listening to what women say and start looking at what they do. Look at their actions, not what they're saying, because they're going to tell you that it's raining, but it ain't rain. There ain't rain on your head. You might need to pay attention. But yeah, man, like it's gotten It's gotten ridiculous.
It has gotten ridiculous. I agree.
It's gotten ridiculous. And see, a lot of people they don't get the outrage that I have. They don't get the outrage that you have or anybody from our age bracket. We get the outrage. We understand why men would be outraged today because
Right.
it's drastically different. Now,
Right.
here's something that I noticed. There was one person that made a comment. They said that women got tired of doing things for a bunch of ungrateful, disrespectful, and disloyal men.
Right.
They taught their girls to take care of themselves. Well, number one, that's a lot of propaganda.
Right.
Because if you go back to when I look back at the men in my family that were in my grandmother's age bracket, the greatest generation, the women revered those men.
They did. Yes.
So I sincerely doubt that those men were ungrateful, disrespectful, and disloyal because those women were taken care of. Those women ended up with land and houses and after that man had passed away. And the other thing I noticed about those men is they worked all day, every day to the day they died. I had
Yes.
one uncle,
Right.
even after he retired, he still worked. He still would get up and do landscaping. And the one thing I noticed about that generation of men, if they didn't do anything else, they worked.
Right.
They worked and they took care of their families.
They took care of their families. Right.
And they made sure that before they left here, that Big Mama was taken care of. Big Mama had, his pension. She had his Social Security. She had land. She had a house that was paid for. So I don't. Every time I hear that propaganda, I'm like, that's lies. And see, the problem is there are too many people that believe that book, The Color Purple.
Yes.
And that movie, The Color Purple, which was flat out BS. My grandmother wouldn't even watch that movie. And I asked her one time, I said, Grandma, why you don't like that movie? And she said, because that's not an accurate representation of Black people during that time.
Oh, wow. Did she really say that?
She said that. She
Wow,
said that. And
wow.
she would know because she was alive during that time. So that's just yet another stereotype that has been created for the purpose of destroying the Black family.
Yes, right. And I'm going to agree with you 1,000,000%. Also, I want to send a special shout out and thank you to Andrew Baker. Andrew Baker and Alton Prayer are also brothers that have donated me and helped me out in the past. James Miles as well. James Miles and James Turner. Shout out to James Turner. I want to thank Andrew Baker, Alton Prayer, and James Turner. Those brothers have always been very supportive, and I'm forever grateful when you guys do support the stream. But let me finish reading out some of these. You're doing some awesome work, Angry Man. I got some more file for you. I want to show it to you. I really appreciate your insight, brother. Shout out to Ray Johnson for that $25 cash app. And that's a deal, right? I appreciate it, man.
That's a deal, right?
Thank you, Ray Johnson. Shout out to Jim Raider, Jim Rat 8 for that $10 super sticker. That's a deal, right? I appreciate it, Jim Rat. Shout out to my man, Real Game Radio patron. He said any other culture can't hold to a natural Black American culture. Shout out to him for that $5 super sticker, and also shout out to Moonwalker. Moonwalker said Brazil in 4 days, but who's counting? No doubt. Shout out that KJ Turner says straggler. I think that's the term you use, Angry Man. Call them strags.
Yeah.
And then shout out to my man Top Gun. He's always holding it down as well. Go ahead, brother.
Here's one other thing, because this person is, they're using their experience, and I'm not gonna discount their experience. This person said my grandfather did work, but he also had another family down the street, and that did happen back in the day, and left only to return when he was dying. She cooked, cleaned, and took care of the house and 12 children. Now, this is interesting. The thing about this, I'm not saying that those type of things did not happen.
Right.
They
They did
did.
happen. Right.
Those
They did
things did
happen.
happen.
Right. Right.
Even the situation with The Color Purple,
Mhm.
that type of stuff did happen. But the way my grandmother explained it to me is that was not the norm. That was the worst of situations. And Black people at that time, they looked down on people that behaved like that.
Mhm.
You know, they didn't revere people like that. So what you got to realize is it's the same thing that has always been done. That's like in this day and age, if you took a family where you have a Black man married to a Black woman and they have children, and he's super abusive, and then you take that family and then you make a movie about it, and then you turn around and say this is a representation of all Black people. That's
Mhm.
not really fair. You know what I'm saying? Because there were a lot of instances like that that happened back in the day. We know that, but
Mhm.
that wasn't the norm. We had thriving communities. We had families that stuck together. We had, we had a cohesiveness,
Very cohesive. Very cohesive. Yes.
and I know because I witnessed it. I
Yes,
saw
sir.
it. It wasn't just your family. Like I remember living in Detroit when I was 7 years old, which is a very Black city.
Right.
And I remember the neighborhood I was in, there were numerous Black families and everybody knew each other and everybody looked out for each other. Same thing in Brooklyn, New York, same thing in Virginia, same thing everywhere that I lived when I was a kid in the early 80s. It was different. It was drastically different. So it's one thing to point out things that you see in movies or things that might have been your own personal experience, but that wasn't everybody.
Right, right. It wasn't everybody. I totally agree. And you know what some don't understand as well, we don't talk about when those veterans were fighting, that some of those women had babies with the mailman, they had babies with the milkman, and some of those kids that those men were taking care of were
Wasn't
not
their
their kids. But see,
Exactly.
we don't never talk about the other side. It's always to castigate the Black man and men in general in a negative light to justify the narrative of propaganda. I'm very careful, the angry man, not to more or less assuage or more or less assimilate my own personal anecdotal experience with the greater populace. And that's what people do. You cannot equivocate your one experience to the greater population. That's called broadcasting.
Yeah.
You can't
and
do
I,
that. That's a thinking error. Go ahead, brother.
And I'll tell you something else too.
Mhm.
The same way there were women back then that knew that their husband had another family or was talking to another woman or was talking to Shirley down the street.
Mhm.
There were also men that when that kid was born and started getting older, they knew that wasn't their kid,
Right.
but they still raised it. They still took care of that child. They still kept the family together. See, the biggest thing that somebody said this on a panel recently. I can't remember who it was, but they said the problem with today is that everybody is selfish. Everybody's only thinking
Right.
about themselves.
Yes, sir. Right. Mhm.
A lot of the women today, they look at the women back then and they say, oh, they tolerated this or they put up with this. And it wasn't that they tolerated or put up with anything. It was that they wanted to keep the family together.
Right. They want to keep the family together. Right.
They wanted to keep the family together because they knew that was more important,
Mhm.
than whatever else was going on. And it's the same thing with the men. They just wanted to keep the family together,
Right, right. And Gregory Scotland said that Crimson Cure spoke on the Black grandmother's outside children. Those women were getting it in too. I'm gonna tell you guys a story about my bloodline. I don't know how true it was, but they were saying that I guess my great uncle was dealing with two sisters. I think, I don't know how true it is, but my point is that was very common. Some of the women will actually be with another man's, her sister's husband sometime and had children, especially in smaller communities. But we don't talk about that. We always cast aspersions on men based on our own trauma and our own pain. But if you're going to be fair about it, you got to look at what grandma did as well. You can't just focus on what the grandfathers did. You got to look at what grandma did as well, because they all did things and they all had issues. And, that's why culture is so important. But I think I asked you a question earlier. Is sign language negative indoctrination? Is sign language negative indoctrination, in your opinion? Because you don't see sign language with Hotep, with the cultures and Ghana as much, and Nigeria. You don't see it as much, Angry Man Hotep. I'm going to finish playing this clip real quick. Hotep.
Man, no doubt. We're going to see my beautiful niece in a minute. What's up, brother?
Brother man. All right. Nice to meet you, bro.
This is what it used to be, guys, for our people back in the day. This is culture. See the brothers with the royal clothes on. Ghana. In Ghana, man, the men are men. In Ghana, the men feel masculine. Are American men emasculated? I would say yes. I would say yes. So, once again, guys, we are bringing to you live.
Dear family members, for your patience. For the best man, we have God bread, bosomchi. Bridesmaids, we have Tony Sandalin, and then Baba Seti. For the groomsmen, we have Tony Nell, and then Aaron Seti. For the flower girls, we have Maggie Odum, and then Giselle Artist.
So, Angry Man, let's talk about it. You know, it's safe to say that sign language is not only part of indoctrination, but sign language also can infect. You know, when we think about disease and microbiology, we call it infecting. And Edward Anderson came up with a very powerful term. He called it mentally transmitted diseases. And it's a very powerful term. I like that. Would you agree with that? Mentally transmitted diseases. And sign language, the Angry Man, is a mental transmitted disease. And it's a mental transmitted disease, Angry Man, because so many of our men have been infected to the point, because I've always said that women are imprinted by the womb and the ears of a man, but men are imprinted by the mind. A woman is imprinted through her body because she's insular. She has a vagina to receive. But men are imprinted through their mind. Watch this. Adam, or the serpent, didn't go to Adam, he went to Eve, because Eve listened to the woman. And because he listened to the woman, he was infected by the voice of the serpent. And so when men listen to some of these modern wicked women, they become infected by the voice of the serpent, because they don't understand that when they're dealing with women that are giving them mentally transmitted diseases, it causes them to become a saboteur of their own ignorance. And that's why these conversations are so important, because let me tell you something, man, when I was out there listening to that music, man, the vibration, man, you know, people don't understand the words that you speak are power. The gospel said that life and death is in the power of the tongue. I saw you bouncing to it, man. You could feel the rhythm. You could feel the ancestral spirit through the chords, man. When you get around a feminine woman that's submissive and honorable, it does something to your mind and spirit. It causes your testosterone levels to go up. But to you men that are listening, the more you stay around toxic, abusive, disrespectful women, not only are you destroying yourself mentally, but you're also lowering your testosterone levels, because you have been infected by sign language. What say you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm glad Edward came up with that term, because I didn't know a way to describe it. But what I've been noticing when I get on panels sometimes is I will hear guys saying things, and I will be like, wait a minute, you didn't come up with that. That's something you heard a woman say, you know, because I've heard so many of the women's talking points that would classify as sign language, and then the guys will repeat it, right? And I even remember I was watching a show. It was a show from the time period was back in the day, and I can't remember what it was, but one of the sons was saying something to the father, and he was like, he said to his son, he was like, you know, leave me alone. Your mother's tongue exhausts me.
Wow.
In other words, you're repeating things that your mother would say. And, you know, I don't really have time for that. And these guys, like, I see this all the time. These women are saying things, and it is a mentally transmitted disease because it's infecting them and it's infecting their thought process.
Right.
And then they come back and they repeat it and regurgitate it to us.
Yes.
And we hear it and we're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Stop. Like, no, you may have been infected with that crap, but you're not going to infect me with that crap. You know, because the funny thing is, and then I want to point this out about us talking about the past and how there was quote unquote so much dysfunction. So if you look at the past and you look at the men of the past and the women of the past and what they were doing, I would rather have the community we had back then with that dysfunction.
Right.
Than the lack of community we have right now with this dysfunction. See, what's hilarious to me is whenever these women want to talk about Black men of the past, and they always use the same trope to disparage them. Oh, well, Black men of the past were not loyal. They had multiple families and whatnot.
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, why do you care? Most of y'all nowadays have multiple children by multiple dudes.
Right.
You're not being taken care of.
Right.
That's the only difference. So it's like, my thing is, we're when you start raising arguments like that, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Because the entire point of the argument is what happened that caused us to not have intact family units? What happened to cause us to no longer have a community? That's the important part. That's the part that keeps getting that keeps falling through the cracks. We keep focusing on all the other stuff, you know, and really, to be truthfully honest, if we're really keeping it 100, a man can have as many families as he wants as long as he takes care of them. You know, that's the other thing. The other thing is we got too many women in this day and age that think they're supposed to dictate what men are supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. That's already off code right there. You know?
Right. Powerful points. Very powerful points. Very powerful points. I got something for you guys, man. I'm going to show you, Angry Man, and we're going to have how much time you got, Angry Man?
I got a little bit longer.
What's a little bit longer?
Probably about another 20, 30 minutes.
Okay, well, let me go and get the other part of the show in. Hold tight. Shout out to my man, Top Gun. He said to the trolls, reach out to the Coach Clinician for a consultation. Help us right in front of you. You pay a small price for peace of mind. No doubt. All right, so I'm going to show this part of the show, and we're going to talk about it because the sign language is crazy, man, and it's getting crazier and crazier by the minute. So Kevin Samuels talked about it, shame, insults, and guilt. We're going to get into it. But before we get into it, this is a warning. This is a fair warning. This channel is for men.
Warning. You are about to enter a territory that's designated by men for all men. And while my platform is clearly designated for all men, many times I will be talking about issues that are endemic only to men of the ADOS descent. If you are a woman coming into the Culture Clinician show, understand that these topics or topics that are more or less salient to male issues, you need to be mature, you need to be open-minded, you need to listen. To those that think that because they come or allow women to come in this space, that this space will be compromised for the sake of beauty, image, or more or less chicanery of any form, you will be greatly deceived. My platform is designed to empower men and to empower good women that are trying to find resolve. And while my channel is designated primarily for the functioning of male rights and male empowerment, it is good and clear for balance to hear a different perspective. You have been warned. If listening to the Kosher Clinician is not advantageous to your psyche, please exit left.
All right, so let's talk about shame language, Angry Man. Let's talk about it because Aunt Esther was the queen of shame language. Let's get into it.
You old fish-eyed You miserable old snagger-tooth jackass. You ignorant old bum. You beady-head old pickle-eyed fool. You are unholy sinner and a heathenish foul Philistine. You bean-eating bear hugger. You a heathen, Fred Sanford. Old senile heathen. I'll unscrew your arm from your shoulder and beat your brains out. You just keep sucking on that sucker. And when I pull your chain, you bark. Woodrow, put that bottle down before I unscrew your wrist. I'd bust your eyeball. Twist his head until it unscrews. I'll get some sticks and stones and break your bones. And the name that'll hurt you will be Esther.
All right, so, Esther was what some would call angry man. My man Truck called it the...
What did we do to her? You mean, what did she do to us? She had the nerve to call us witches. And she was right. You three ugly witches.
So, that was shaming language. And she was also abusive to Woodrow. But why is it that we don't get the feedback or the negative feedback from Esther berating Woodrow? Because if we're going to be fair about it, we want to use the color purple as a talking point to talk about the abuse of men towards women. Look at how Aunt Esther abused Woodrow. But we don't talk about that. What's your take on that?
It's because it's comedy when it's done to a man.
Right.
When a man does something disparaging to a woman, it's tragic.
Mm-hmm.
But when a woman does something disparaging to a man, it's funny. It's funny. Like even on The Color Purple, whenever Mr. did something to Miss Seeley, it was sad. But when when Sophia blacked Harpo's eye, it was a joke.
It was a joke, right?
Harpo was sitting there explaining that his mule kicked him in the face or something like that, and Mr. wasn't paying no attention to him. He's sitting there trying to explain what happened to him. It's comedy whenever it's done to a man.
It's comedy, right. It is comedy, and it's unfortunate. That's why we got to have these discussions. So the next one, angry man, is insults. Kevin Sanders talked about sign language. I came up with deaf. Check this out. Insults.
And lately, I always be asking my friends, do y'all feel like the value of women to guys have went down, or guys just don't, respect us, appreciate us how they used to back in the 80s and the 90s? Women control literally, because I could say this now, but I only say that because of status. We making hella money just like these. But as far as a man literally worshiping the ground a woman walk on, it's kind of rare these days. We running out of that. And it's kind of scary in society today. And I don't know, I might piss a lot of people off talking about this, but it's just conversations I be having with my friends. But guys don't appreciate us. I don't know what it is. This might be just something I talk about on maybe the first topic I talk about on my podcast, because I don't know. It's just a little weird these days. It's like we got to fight for a spot in these lives, or they want to put, I don't know. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to save this for my podcast, because I know I got a podcast coming out here. We all about to be acting normal. I got a podcast coming. Stay tuned. But yeah, I don't know. That's going to be the first topic I talk about, though, because it's real different out here. But we do run the world for sure. Wow. We control the world. I feel like the reason it's spinning. Women are taking over day by day. And that's just all I'm going to say for now.
All right. That's an insult. And also, it's ignorance.
Yeah.
Angry man, when you think about, what this woman said, it's an insult. I don't want you to tell me why in your own opinion, but it's almost like an insult when God created Lucifer, but then Lucifer wanted to take over the world. And you see that a lot of modern women have the spirit of Lilith. You talked about Lilith and also the spirit of the Antichrist. But when you hear this kind of foolishness, man, this woman said, we created the world, we run the world. And she's talking about a world that men created that she benefit from. What's your take on that, man? Because that sounds very delusional, in my opinion. And before you respond, shout out to my man, shout out to Andrew Baker. Thank you, Andrew. He said that salute to Kosher and Angry Man. Sign language is just another tool the black women use to deflect from taking responsibility for their negative actions versus changing to benefit men and the community.
That's a bet, right?
And that's a deal, right? Thank you, Alton. I appreciate it, brother. Andrew Baker. Thank you, brother. Thank you, sir, for that. That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Thank you, sir. And guys, get the likes up. Let's get the stream up to 200. Let's get up to 200 as we got the Angry Man in the house. But when you hear that, the sign language, the insult, what was resonating through your head when this woman said that foolishness, man? And then we're going to get back to it.
There's a few things. One, she said that she felt like back in the 80s and 90s that men worshiped women. No, it wasn't that men worshiped women. It was that men appreciated women. Mm-hmm. The reason why they don't appreciate them today is because there's not much to appreciate.
Right. Say it again.
There's not much to appreciate. Like she gave the hint when she said we're making as much money as these Negroes are making nowadays. Well, that's part of the problem. You've put yourself in a position to where you want to compete with your man, and you've tried to do it to make him feel inferior.
Make him feel inferior, right?
If you try to make someone feel inferior, why would they appreciate you?
Right.
You know, why the appreciation, it's the rule of reciprocity. If you want to be appreciated, you have to show appreciation.
Right.
But if you're in a situation where you're trying to make your man inferior to you and you're trying to make him less than you when he's supposed to be your leader, he's supposed to be above you, why would he appreciate you? And she's a bit delusional.
Right.
Just because women make a certain amount of money nowadays, which, in my personal opinion is not, it's not something they fought for in the sense of I'm going to be the best I can be at whatever. It's something they fought for by whining and complaining until they got more money.
Right. Right.
So it's not something that I feel is earned. You know what I'm saying? So for one, you don't run the world. If any of you ladies are watching, because if men decided not to go to work tomorrow, your world would come to a crashing halt.
Right.
Most of the jobs that provide infrastructure for our society are done by men, not because women can't do them. It's because women traditionally don't go into those fields. They don't want to do those jobs.
Right.
So no, you don't run the world. You just run your mouth mostly.
Right.
And
right.
And my thing is, like, she's talking about the 90s and appreciation, and she's saying that things are different. And it's like, you can't expect men to appreciate what you have become, because what you have become is not conducive to us having a normal functioning society. Like, there are men out here right now that would love to have a good woman. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to. Men have decided they're no longer going to compromise their happiness, their self-respect, their dignity, just to be in a relationship with an unruly, disrespectful woman that has a Jezebel spirit.
Yes, sir. Right. Right. Yes, sir. I totally agree with you. And it's so insulting, man, because when you think about your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and all the progenitors that came before that paved the way for so many of these delusional women, it's a slap in the face. We understand that our grandmothers nurtured our men to greatness, but our men were great because the grandmothers nurtured that said men to greatness. But now we're not nurturing our men. The more men do, the more they expect, and the more that they berate them. We're not saying all, but we could argue, Angry Man, that more than 80% do it. And I would say that's a conservative estimate. But we have a lot of women that berate our men and castigate them aside to the point that many men feel like they have no worth. Let's look at this one real quick. I know you got to go in a few, and then we're going to get right to it. So shame, insult, guilt. That was the paramount to Kevin Sanders. Let's do it.
A woman that friend zones a man after he expresses interest in having a romantic relationship with her, that then still allows, solicits, and expects that man to invest his vulnerability, time, and energy into her in the name of friendship, that woman is a fuckboy.
Society's always telling women, know your worth, know your worth, know your worth. But we act like men aren't supposed to know their worth. And people take issue when a man knows his worth. Men should know their worth just as much as a woman. You have to understand you have value here. You are just as important to this relationship as she is. So just as you need to give to her, she needs to give to you. It's a two-way street. And I think more importantly, you have to get to a point where you are not afraid if she walks away from you. Yeah, the reality is that men, especially good men, get caught up in the fear of losing her, that they do everything in their power to keep her, not realizing that now, rather than losing her, you're losing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Facts.
Women aren't the only prize. Men are.
Yes, she is. Women are we have intrinsic value. We are the prize. Like,
what?
Men go to work for women.
Wait, what?
Yeah, why do you go to work? To pay bills for your woman?
No, for myself.
Somehow men think that women lose value when they've had multiple partners.
Quick question. Why is it that women feel men that are 5'11", slightly portly, and make between $40,000 and $65,000 a year have less value than men who are 6'5" with a washboard stomach and $1 million in the bank? Answer that one for me. It's called standards, and both sides do it. That is all.
All right, hold on, angry man, hold on.
Your
all
husband.
Right. So that's guilt.
Yeah.
What's your take on this guilt? That's part of shaming language, sign language. What's your take on the guilt?
Oh, they love to run the guilt trip.
Mm-hmm.
A man's supposed to do this, and men are not living up to the standards of what men are supposed to be. And
right.
You're supposed to do this, and you're supposed, and you know, the easiest way to shut all of that down is men set the standards for other men.
We set the standards, right? I totally agree. Men set the standards,
so
right?
You're not a woman shaming a man about what he's not doing is like one of your children in your house telling you that you should have paid the light bill on the 1st instead of the 5th. Like, no, that's not the way the hierarchy works.
Right.
You feel me? You don't get to tell me what a man is supposed to be. As a woman, you have every right to look at me and say, okay, he's handling his business. Cool. If you look at me and think that I'm not handling my business, then your recourse is to leave me alone.
Right.
Not be with me, but not to sit there and henpeck me and nag me and destroy my self-esteem and my confidence. And then by the time that's destroyed, now you don't want to be with me because I'm not the man that you met.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so no, it's not that. That's one of the biggest problems. They think it's their job. And this is what's so hilarious about this. What's so hilarious about this is you'll have women say all the time that they don't want a little boy. Like I don't want a little boy. I don't have time to be trying to raise a man or whatever. Okay, cool. I understand that completely. You shouldn't have to do that. But at the same time, you shouldn't be trying to mother him either.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if he's out, you know, it's kind of like in that movie Creed, when the second Creed movie, when Adonis got beaten by the Russian guy, beaten by Drago's son, and he was kind of defeated, and he was just going through the motions. He was just going through what he was going through, and his woman kept trying to fix it. And finally, you know, his mother, you know, Felicia Rashad, she told him, she said, look, he's a man. He has to figure it out on his own.
Right.
You know, leave him alone. Let him go through what he has to go through. You know, and the problem is you have a lot of women nowadays, they think so little of Black men.
Right, they do. Right.
That they think that we can't figure it out if we're left alone. So they think they have to nag us, and they think they have to give us tough love.
Right.
And, you know, they think that's going to motivate us to go do something. And you know what I found? What I found is when you're in a relationship with a woman and she thinks that you're not doing enough, and she tries to motivate you with tough love, it only serves to make you feel worse about yourself.
Yes, sir. Right.
Which ultimately serves to be counterproductive to whatever it is you're trying to do. And this is the reason why most men, when they're in situations like that, when they finally get fed up and leave, or the woman finally gets fed up and leave, all of a sudden you see them rise. All of a sudden you see them start to do better for themselves when they're alone.
When they're alone, right.
Because they don't have nobody nagging them. Like I thought about it one time, like when you're young and you first living on your own, and you sometimes things get tight, and as a man you try to figure it out. So okay, I know that I can pay this light bill a little late before they disconnect it. And a woman, if you're in a relationship with a woman, she's gonna be like, you need to pay it now, you need to pay it right now, you need to pay it now, nagging you about it, even though you have a plan in your mind for what you're gonna do. And I remember when I was a young man, I remember thinking to myself, if I was single, no one would be nagging me about this damn light bill.
Right.
So, that's also part of it. So the guilt trip it's really counterproductive to a man's, mental development.
It's very counterproductive, and that's why these shows are so powerful. This is the last one, man, and then we're gonna take it in. And I know you got to go, and then I'm gonna finish the show by myself. Hold tight. So the last one is the need to be right. This young lady is a clarion caller, Chantel Simone. She's gonna be on my show tomorrow, but I want you to listen to what she's saying, and then we're gonna take it home.
Deserves your best self. Your husband deserves your titty when they're at their perkiest. Why not hold off and give your husband your perkiest titty instead of giving this man who is not qualified to be a good husband, who you would never marry? We have to have the conversation. Your body changes after kids, right? Your titties aren't as perky after kids. Somebody else's seed was sucking on your titties and now they're long, and the husband is supposed to come accept you with your long titties. So we can have our long list of expectations and requirements from a man. And when men say, okay, we want fit, feminine, and friendly, we throw a fit and say, who cares what men want? They're going to cheat anyways. If we say we want men and we want healthy relationships with our men, shouldn't we at least care what they want from us? Could it be that they cheat because we don't care what they want? Cue the pick me comments.
Modern women more cut out to be side chicks or wives?
Can you define the modern woman?
Everything that's not like your grandma or your great grandma.
I think we can be wifey material depending on who, we're involved with. You can't expect us to be wifey material for someone that doesn't deserve it.
Automatically wrong. It's conditional femininity. Conditional.
I don't think so.
Hold on, no. Conditional. See, a woman who's feminine is feminine, regardless if the man around her is trying to marry her or he's just the guy who's delivering her groceries. Mm-hmm. I don't know where you ladies get off talking about, well, I can act right for the right man. You need to act right for the men who built the world that you live in.
Yeah.
Because we're all the right men.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you just need to act better for the one that's taking care of you.
Or just not act for them at all. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-mm.
That's why.
Let me stop, Angry Man. Let me stop. Go ahead, brother.
That's why a woman that pretty will have problems just securing a regular relationship. Because she doesn't get it. She doesn't get it.
Right.
She doesn't get it.
Right. And I like what Chantel Simone said, man. You got chicks, they had a lot of fun or they had kids by multiple men and they want to give you their sloppy seconds. but they think you should be grateful for that, where women in other cultures know that it's nothing good about, having kids by other men. Those women in the past, like your grandmama, my grandmama, and great grandmama, it was a stigma. I was talking to some of the brothers in Ghana. They said, man, no, women in African countries, by and large, they don't have children out of wedlock. It's shameful. And it was shameful in the past because we had stronger Black cultures. The American culture of the past was powerful and strong. It wasn't perfect, but we had music, we had culture, we had dress, we had style. That's when being Black was classy. But now being Black and being like Chantel Simone, they shame women like her for doing what was normal in the past. Being a pick-me was normal. Every woman wanted to be picked. Grandmom and great-grandma would cook that man pies. They would put them in the window to attract a man. They would keep their garden clean, their house clean. They said, baby, come on in. If you were a stranger, to let that man know that woman had wife skills. They were very feminine. And what I noticed with some of the Ghanaian women that I was talking to, they're very feminine, man. They're very, their energy calms you. And every man need a calming woman, man, to soothe the savage soul, man. And, we had that years ago. I remember I seen my grandmom and my grandfather. They weren't perfect. My granddaddy was, had his issues, but we had it more natural back then. And I like the Beano concept because we need more people that think from those talking points. You were saying something about Kevin. Go ahead. You were saying something about Kevin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that, it's funny because we've always had situations where women like this have come on panels and they'll say stuff like this, and we all get the same look on our face. That look that Kevin has right there. We all get that same look on our face because
right.
confusing as hell.
Right.
To listen to this. Like I remember I was doing a show one time and there was a woman that came on my panel, and this is the reason why I didn't really do shows like that. Kevin, God bless him for having the energy to deal with it. I couldn't deal with it because I got tired of going back and forth with the women. But,
right.
This one woman says, well, I was a good woman to this guy and then he did me dirty or whatever. So I don't want to do that no more. And I said, so basically what you're telling me is exactly what Kevin said. Your femininity is conditional.
Right.
Like I'm going to be the man that I am, whether I'm single, whether I'm in a relationship, it don't matter. If I'm a good dude and I carry myself in a certain way and I have a certain code that I live by, I'm going to live by that code. Now, if I get in a relationship with a woman and she does me dirty and I'm living by my code, that's not my mental issue. That's her mental issue.
Right.
So why am I then going to change who I am because somebody did? And see, that's where the goofiness comes from right there.
No doubt. Shout out to my man, Myron Denard. He said, this is a great show. I hate we didn't get a recent Angry Man and Kevin Samuels collaboration. No doubt. I appreciate it. Let's finish listening to this real quick, and then we're going to finish the conversation real quick.
I think what I'm trying to say is that, you can't give your best to someone that doesn't deserve it. So you expect me to give my all and give my best to
I
someone?
expect you to appreciate the men that built the world around you, that allow you to be able to live in a first world country. The entitlement you guys have.
Well, what about the women? What about the women that built that, though? You know what I'm saying? Like the women.
Look, I'm trying to help you.
No, I know.
The women haven't built shit. Name me 5 great female inventors. I'll give you one.
Okay.
Madame Curie. Go.
What I'm trying to say.
Women don't build nothing.
Women they delivered us. They built life. What
a
about
dog can shit out mutts. Giving birth does not make you special. It doesn't make you special.
And Angry Man, that's part of a condition, and that's what we're talking about. That's part of the condition that we call, because they can't hear what Kevin and many men are saying. And that comment was said.
It was savage.
It was savage, man. And that's part of the meta madness. That's why I came up with a topic called meta madness, because just like Kevin asked himself the question, what were they thinking about? That's what we be saying as men. Their logic makes no sense. It's foolishness, you know. Meta madness. You would think women of the past, they had enough metacognitions to realize what they were thinking about. But it becomes meta madness when people do these things and you ask yourself the question, what were they thinking about? And the young lady that I'm going to have on my show tomorrow, Chantel, they've been threatening her to take her life on TikTok. What's your take on that, Angry Man? Yeah, what's your take on that?
Man, there is a cadre of just these unruly Jezebel women that they just been running buck wild for so damn long. They don't want to go back. They don't want to go back to the structure. So any woman that their power comes in their cohesiveness.
Right.
Their power comes in their ability to uphold each other in their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You see, now the moment a woman breaks rank and says, nah, I don't think we should be doing this, that's when the dominoes start to fall. And they know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We don't really have that issue as men because as men, you know, we can all line up under the umbrella of masculinity, under the umbrella of building, under the umbrella of certain things that men do, but we don't uphold each other in bullshit.
Right.
We don't do that. You know, if another guy's doing something goofy, it's like, hey, man, what you think you're doing? You're not supposed to be doing that. And the reason why is because when we start getting goofy, we have a real impact on the world.
Right.
You know, we have now, women have an impact, but their impact is a little bit longer and a little bit drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
See, we're starting to just now really see the disaster. Like women getting off code is like a train wreck in slow motion.
Right.
In fact, it's in such slow motion that we don't even realize it's a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Until we're towards the end of it. See, we're towards the end of it now, where we're starting to see how bad the wreck is, and the women don't care because we live in a society now where they can manipulate the narrative. They can manipulate the narrative. They can always fall back on, I'm a woman, I don't know any better.
Right.
You know, even though they're promoting, I'm a woman, I know everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's really annoying to see women that are actually decent women that actually have common sense and actually want better for the male and female interactions to be attacked and called pick-me's and all of these stupid things. You know what's funny about the pick-me thing?
Right. Tell me.
In this country, Latin women still operate that way.
Right. They keep themselves fit. They want to honor their men. They want to love them. They want to treat them well. And you know, Angry Man, I've seen them. You've seen it. Too many men in America, man, they come home broken. They send in the car stressed out. And many Angry Men are looking like this. Yeah, they're in the car crying, man, married and alone. Don't have a voice. Testosterone levels are down because they're stressed out. And, you know, when you're around a feminine woman, I'm going to assume you have a very feminine woman. You look happy. When you have a feminine woman, man, it changes the world. You know, I'm going to ask you a question. You feel comfortable. Is your wife, your girlfriend, Afro-Latin, or is she American ADOS?
Yeah, she's her father was of Cuban and Puerto Rican descent.
Oh wow, good.
But
good.
Her mom was black though.
Okay. So she's go ahead.
Yeah, so she has like a mixture.
So she's a Morena. We call them Morenas.
Mm-hmm.
Morenas. Okay, cool. So in your dating, what was the difference between dating your current girlfriend versus ADOS women? Was there a succinct difference or not really too much of a difference?
The difference was way more femininity. Way more femininity, less masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she doesn't have like, you know, with the black women I've dated, you know, they have sort of this And I didn't notice it at first because I was only used to dating black women.
Mhm.
So I didn't notice it at first, but I knew something was wrong. I knew that women were supposed to be more feminine,
Mhm.
but it's sort of like this energy, it's similar to a dude's energy, but you don't look at it that way because you're looking at a woman.
Mhm.
So you're expecting her to be feminine, but it's that, you know, that buck up at you energy, like, like they act like they'll go out in the street and fight with you and stuff. Um, if you get into a disagreement, they're definitely not gonna shed any tears. They're gonna come at you just as hard as you go at them. It's really masculine, but with her, I noticed, she doesn't like to argue, doesn't like to go back and forth. Um, she doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't buck up at me. You know what I'm saying? She's just way more feminine, in a lot of ways.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and we need more of that. We need more feminine women. And you don't see it as much as they have. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let you go, man. And I'm honored that you came on, man. I love your insight. I love your tenacity. I love you as a brother, man. You and I, we're in the Tar Heel state, the
Yeah.
greatest state in the union. You know, when you think about it, man, you got two prolific content creators, Edward Anderson, myself, and you. And I think that's something very powerful to have three brilliant minds. I actually did a show called Triangulation in the past. I had me and you and Edward Anderson, man. But I'm going to ask you another question, man. I'm going to let you go in a minute. The Roe v. Wade situation, what was your take on that? Is that the women that are barking about this decision? Is that another form of sign language? And if so, is it in the form of shame, insult, guilt, or the need to be right? Or is it all four, in your opinion?
It's in my opinion, I feel like it's all of it because it's a sign of that situation being reverted like that is a sign of the times. It's a sign that certain people in positions of power, I believe, have gotten tired
Mhm.
of just, you have that old saying, when you give somebody an inch, they take a mile.
Right.
And I think women in the fight for equality, and I'm not going to sit here and say that the fight for equality has been frivolous. It hasn't. There are certain things that women did need to get. Unfortunately, no one wants to talk about the fact that the crap that women were going through in this country had absolutely nothing to do with us black men.
Mhm.
Had nothing to do with us. So, because we never really truly had a patriarchy or were ever in a position to oppress anybody in
Mhm.
spite of what Alice Walker put out. We've
Right.
never been in a position to oppress any of our women or anything like we had to struggle the same way our women had to. We struggled collectively. But I think what has happened is the men that are in positions of power have gotten tired of women using our benevolence as a way to manipulate us out of power and put us in positions to where we're we're less than. I think men collectively are getting sick of it. I think men collectively are getting tired of it. And the reason why they're upset is because women are not stupid.
Mhm.
They know like them having that snatched away from them. They're like they're looking at it like, oh man, we need to do something before they take it even further.
Mhm.
So all it is it's them witnessing that some of their power is being taken back from 'em. Because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that the power they have was given to them.
Mm.
So, the power, and that's the reason why when women got certain things, instead of gloating about it or trying to take advantage of it, they should have appreciated it and said, "Okay, cool, we're moving towards uh, uh, a more conducive society because now we're not being treated like second class citizens." But the only thing they did was they used that advantage to put men as second class citizens. But it's like men are the ones who gave you the power.
Right.
So the same way we gave it, we can take it back. Like
Right.
What does the book say? It says the good Lord giveth and he taketh away.
Right.
Like, you take the power back. And they're mad now because that power got taken back from them. And really, the Supreme Court justices, when they actually discussed it, they said technically that ruling should have never went that way in the first place.
Right.
And it's hilarious to me because you have black women that are fighting for it. And it's like, do you realize that if you had not fought for this, or do you realize that if we did not have Roe v. Wade, we'd be damn near 100 million strong in this country? But
and people don't look at it like that, man. You know, so many of our babies, boys and girls, are gone. You know, we don't know what would have came out of all those babies that were deleted. How many has it been since the 70s, Angry Man? Has it been?
I think it's been about. I think somebody said like 63 million.
Woo! So imagine if we had 63 million babies that were alive. What the outcome would have been. And we know that by and large, is a fair some, I understand under certain circumstances that, some say it's necessary. And I'm torn because, women that are raped or women that are molested, I understand that's a little different. Even though I'm still a little torn, but I got daughters and something that happened to my child, I don't know if I would want my girls to go full term, but I'm torn because part of me believes in the sanctity of life. But then at the same time, I understand. But when you hear them say that baby is their body, that baby is not your body. It's inside your body, but the baby is not your body. The seed of the man is the God spark because the life is in a man. One man can have a nation of children.
Yeah.
One woman can't. If you gave a man one woman and gave that woman, if you gave a man 10 women, if you gave that woman 10 men, guess what? The woman with 10 men cannot create a nation. She can create some children, but her body is not going to be able to replicate as much. But if you gave that one man 10 men, 10 women, that man could make a tribe. Would you agree with that? He can make a tribe, and he keep replicating. If he's young, he can make a tribe on up to his life is over. Look at Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is one of them. Genghis Khan he created what they call the Mongoloid of the Asian race because that one man was able to spread his seed because life is in the seed of man. And what folks don't understand is this, Angry Man, if you look at through the lens of theology, the original woman came out of man. People always talk about, the woman, give life. No, she don't. She's just a conduit. But the original woman came out of man. God gave life to Adam, but Adam gave life to the woman. The woman was made for man, and many don't like to hear that. But the woman was made for man. She came out of man, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. So technically, as man is supposed to be a servant of God, the woman's supposed to be a servant of God and man. And men turn around and serve their women by giving them provision and protection. But she honored him by looking up to him and respecting him as a man. And we don't see that anymore. And because of that, the community is broken and it's destroyed. Shout out to my man, James Turner. He said, angry kosher, angry kosher and kosher man. Oh, he's being funny. Angry kosher and kosher man. Great collab, and that's on my mom. He said, just stream YouTube and the internet. And, that brother is always showing me love, man. I love that brother to death. And, we got so much going on now, man. We bring a bunch of degenerates. And, you see it all the time when men try to have powerful conversations. Here come Raekwon the Man, and that's on my mom.
Yeah, put chain on them. Balls on my mom. Maybe broke balls. Kill some of my mom. Bro, they back me look like gang. That's on my mom. Gang. That's on my mom. Gang. That's on my mom.
Yeah, that's Raekwon. Right, go ahead.
That right there is the result of a community with a lack of male leadership and fathers.
Yes, sir. Lack of male leadership, lack of fathers. And it's happening. It's getting worse. And it's so bad now, Angry Man, then that's the norm now. That kind of behavior is the norm. And it's unfortunate. But listen, I know you gotta go, man. I appreciate it, man. This has been a lit stream, man. I really appreciate it, brother. I got you. If you need me for anything in the Tar Heel state, if you want to ever chop it up, I'll take you to lunch. We'll chop it up as men. But I appreciate it, man. You did a great job. But what did you get for the stream, man, before you go? And where do we go from here? Because I like to tell people, Angry Man, that if we're gonna have clarity and balance, I like to tell men that this is the part of the show where
This is the part of the show where we find solutions.
So what are the solutions going forward, Angry Man, in your opinion? What are the solutions?
The solutions are, as me personally, I believe that women have no choice but to follow the men.
Mhm.
It's difficult now because there's so many other things that circumvent them having to follow us. But I feel like if we continue to speak to the younger generation of men, continue to push them to have standards and to not tolerate certain things, it has to change.
Mhm.
It has to change. I feel like if the younger generation of men have put their foot down and say, well, look, we're not tolerating this. I feel like it's over for a lot of the women in the Gen X generation.
I agree.
And some of the millennials, but I feel like if the younger men have higher standards and a different mentality, it will cause those younger group of women, some of them, to wake up.
Mhm.
In my personal opinion. I mean, if you look at it, there is a little bit of hope. There is a sliver of hope. The reason why I say that is because in my generation, we had a epidemic of teen mothers.
Right, we did.
And now teen mothers are virtually non-existent.
True.
Like that number has plummeted almost to zero. And I believe the reason why is because those young girls saw what their mothers went through. And they said, I don't want to go through that.
Mhm.
The only problem is with the Gen X generation, you still got a lot of simps running around here. So a lot of these women that are not worthy of a man are still able to get men. I think once it gets to the state where a lot of these women are not able to get men, even at a young age, it'll make them change their behavior.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I did a show in the past, said he got standards too. Men need to understand, Angry Man, that they are the prize catchers. I'm going to say it again. When my niece got married today, he saw my niece as a prize. Therefore, he caught her. But she was not the prize by default. He had to designate her as his prize. The gospel said that the bride prepare herself for the bridegroom. And so she's the prize only if that man deem her to be the prize. If men would start upping their standards and say, you know what, you don't meet my criteria, I'm sorry, and don't worry about the sign language, guess what? Women will start acting better, they will start being better, or they will be left behind. And even the ones that were fake, if the men put in comprehensive prenups and states they hold those prenups binding, they will have no other choice but to do right. But see, you have safeguards in other countries to hold the women accountable. Gonna do a show about it at some point. But anyway, man, thank you, man. You get a round of applause, man, for your great expose, for your insight and wisdom, man. I'm gonna let you go, man. Go enjoy your family. And man, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, man. And to the 175 that are watching, guys, I'm going to drop the link if you guys want to come on and talk about sign language in the next few minutes. But if not, I'm going to end the stream. So if anyone want to talk about sign language, feel free to pop on. Feel free to add to the conversation. If anyone you want to talk about the comments by Angry Man, feel free to add to the conversation because some of you men are victims of sign language. So the link is being dropped. Come call in and let's have a conversation about sign language. How has sign language been a detriment to you? Is sign language a sign of the times? And if it is a sign of the times, where do we go from here? Because it appears that things are getting worse. And you would think, Angry Man, with gas being almost $6, $5, and $6 a gallon in some spots, that, the things that you're seeing now would be the least of women's problems. That they'll be more focused on more salient things, but they're not. Shout out to my man, Richard Mack, Zoom to Thailand. He said, shout out to the Angry Man and kosher.
It's a bet, right? It's a bet, right?
And that's a deal, right? Shout out to
It's
the
a bet,
Angels, man.
right? That's a deal, right? That's
Richie
a
Mack, I
deal,
appreciate
right?
that, brother. And
That's a
you know,
bet,
Richie
right?
Mack
That's
is
a
giving
deal,
me an
right?
option,
That's a
man.
deal,
You know,
right?
shout out to that brother. He's giving me an option as they're traveling abroad. They're traveling to Thailand and other places. So shout out to him. And my man, Mr. O, is in the back. What's up, Mr. O? How you doing, brother?
What up, though? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can
What's
hear you,
going on,
brother.
Mr. O? Yo, I'm a head out,
Okay,
man.
go ahead.
I appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate it,
Anytime
brother.
you need me, you know what it is. And
No doubt.
as far as the gas and all that, it ain't hit them yet. You're gonna start to see women wanting to get married sooner or later. Why? But I'm gonna holler at y'all, man.
You see it now, AM. You see it now on World Star. Hey, did you get my cash up? We was on a Fight Club treating them dudes last night.
Yeah. I got it, bro. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, man, what's up with that boy Fatty, though? Well, I'll wait. Another time.
All right,
bro.
Thank you, Angry man. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you. All right, so shout out to Mr. O and my man Traditional versus Modern Talks. Let's talk about the sign language you brothers have experienced. What have you guys been experiencing as it relates to sign language? Go ahead.
Sign language, that's a story of my life. I mean, like you and Angry Man was talking about earlier, referring to the color purple. A lot of millennial women actually use that as a basis of why they say they do the things that they do. They dig this here. They'll use books and movies such as The Color Purple, such as any other movie before the 1950s. For some reason, they love the 40s and the 50s so much. But I digress. They want to go ahead and say that them men was abusive. They was too oppressive. They want them to have no type of rights. They didn't want them to vote. And now we're seeing why some things was put in place, because we see the ramifications of why if you give certain rights and freedoms to certain individuals, they get corrupted with power.
Right.
And ergo, a lot of men, especially in the community, has that power taken away from them, especially men that couldn't read above a 6th grade level, that had and maintained that factory job, that warehouse job. And when the 1980s came and majority of them jobs would ship away, a lot of men's only right to masculinity is able to maintain and hold a good job in a America that was going through a recession that inflated everything like we're going through now, to the point that even if he did have a good warehouse job, he had to put in extra hours, more time away from the family, more structure not being implemented in the home. And that gave way to more stress in relationships, more children being raised without a father, or lack thereof, they don't know who their father was. So it takes us millennials and Gen Zers coming up to go ahead and try to start something fresh. Other than that, if we don't, I hate to say it, 2053.
Yeah, it's over. I agree, man. I'm gonna ask you a question, man. Let me read out these super chats. Shout out to a Soul Seed. He said it's been a while since I planted to see that. Coach, appreciate your channel. Love the concepts, and that's a deal, no doubt. That's a deal, right? I appreciate it.
That's a deal,
Soul
right?
Seed. Shout out to my man.
Right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Trick Trinity 2. He said, love seeing black men doing big things, blessings. And that also is a deal, right?
That's a deal,
but
right?
I was talking about sign language, and is sign language a sign of the times? If you look at it through the apocalyptic lens, is sign language a sign of the times, Mr. O, in your opinion?
Well, say that again, because I was nodding my head to that song real quick.
Oh, the song. I'm sorry, man. Is sign language a sign of the times, in your opinion? It's sign language. Is sign language a sign of the times?
Yeah, with the events of social media and platforms like this, black men has finally got a way to go ahead and compare notes, and basically came down to the conclusion. All right, some of us in the community do the things that they have said we have done since the 60s, 70s, or 80s. Whatever time period y'all want to pinpoint and use for your argument, yes, a minuscule amount though. That was the biggest lie and the biggest critique. Only a small portion of said men was doing the things that we accused of in mass numbers even to this day. So we had to go ahead and start saying, all right, we trying to become good men. By 2016, I think every man woke up and said, who we being a good man to who? Are these the same women like our big mamas? Do they actually want to go ahead and take on our legacy, raise our children properly under of course, whatever religious doctrine or whatever type of family values y'all already had in common, and y'all actually met on an even keel and agreed to? Did they actually stay on script? Did they stay on code? Or did they say they was gonna do whatever they want to do, sleep with whoever they want to do, because Big Daddy government gave them a battery that put in their back because they got the right to vote? They was able to work a 40-hour work week that basically, for any human being, put stress and everything on the body. And you want to go ahead and just say to have the liberty to say that you're equal to me. But the thing is about being equal, just because you put an equal input doesn't mean you get the same equal outcomes. And shout out to Angry Man, a lot of Gen X, well, baby boomer first, they're the first casualties. The second casualty and possible third casualty of this Luciferian feminism rhetoric and ideology is going to be the Generation X woman and millennial women.
Right. No, I agree. Traditional versus modern, man. What's your take on this conversation? And also about this very nefarious concept called sign language. Kevin Samuels came up with the concept of sign language: shame, insult, guilt, the need to be right. But I also came up with death. But what's your take on sign language? How have you been impacted by this mentally by sign language? Unmute yourself. Unmute your mic.
Sorry about that. Shout out to you and Anger Man for this show. I appreciate the conversation. This is such a good topic to have at these times because, man, yesterday was blowing up my phone, and I was just posting the things about I believe in stating that children's life should matter, and a lot of people don't realize we are in the sign of the times, and we are seeing it for a reason. And I think it's getting hyper to a point where it's going to get out of control. So based off what your conversation was there with Anger Man, I think from my perspective on this was what Kevin said was sign language. It's legit real. It's happening. And I noticed from my perspective, dealing with different communities, from African to Asian to Hispanic to white, I personally believe in our culture exclusively, we tend to have this mindset where we know how they say, well, a man that's honest, like Kevin would say, he was honest to the point where he's correcting, they tend to call him rainbow, you know what I'm saying? Because, why in the world are we the only people to say this? And this black woman saying that, I've noticed for a lot of reasons. No other culture does that. And I've seen this several times growing up, and I always wonder, why do they go to that mindset to think, I'm gonna degrade his manhood and say he's rainbow, you know what I'm saying? And he's not even that. And the thing is, they're the same ones saying he's rainbow, but got a rainbow best friend. How does that make any sense? And it's like, the sign language has been there for years. It's been programmed in the software for a lot of our culture, women in our community. I think if we really want to learn, we, like you said, look at the past and what they were teaching to bring them to that mindset today. And I think it's crazy into the place we are now. It's like, it's getting worse. And now, and they're still wondering why they're not being chosen, because we're sick of that emasculation. Shout out to Dennis Furlan. He had a show today, talked to a lot of people about this conversation on this topic, actually. So you and Dennis need to collaborate something, because he was one of Kevin's associates. But I think you definitely hit the nail on the head in this conversation, because we need to have this talk, because the more it gets out here, it's getting worse. And a lot of young people I've talked to about this, they're realizing they're not picking their culture in the Black community, which is, I think it's the choice they're making in America. But outside of America, they need to go to where they're celebrated, like you said in the past, not stay here where they're tolerated, because it's getting worse by the minute. Even my dating pool is getting worse, and I'm 29. I'm just like, the women I've come across, I have to deal with certain women who claim to be Christian, traditional women, but have several tattoos and body piercing. And I'm just like, why should I settle for that when I know there's women who don't follow that?
Right.
And tell me one thing and don't follow that thing they say they claim. That's
Right.
inconsistent. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can I take you serious for my future daughter and son? They can't have that mindset to think, well, mommy has it, how can I believe my parents? You know what I'm saying? So that's just my thoughts on it. But I appreciate the show, guys. It was an awesome conversation. I appreciate y'all.
No doubt, no doubt. I appreciate it, man. And Snuggle said that BGS came with the concept of sign language. Kevin Samuels made it popular. Okay, cool. All right, no problem with that. So shout out to BGS. BGS actually came up with the concept of sign language. But because I am the coach and clinician, I came up with deaf. So if you hear anybody using the word deaf and cognitive dissonance, I came up with that. So shout out to BGS and Kevin Samuels with the forerunner of the concept of sign language. So shout out to BGS. JJ Cowboy, how you doing, sir? How would you like to add to the conversation?
All right, brother. Once again, get a chance to talk with you on the chat. I want to say something real powerful about the end times and what's going on and prove the Bible is real. Okay, the single motherism in our community is blatant Eve culture pattern right out of the Bible, out of Eve. These women are refusing to wake up and honor the Bible. They rebel against God and they don't like men. They want to have the power and the leverage over us so bad that they want to do, they won't stop at nothing to get it. But now in the last days, it's really about God pleading for his people. And he's gonna cast out the rebellious. He's gonna get our people reconstituted together. And like Australia, America, Afghanistan, and other countries being judged right now through natural disasters and war crimes and a bunch of other things. And I've had so many experiences reading the Bible, and examples jump right out in front of me. It's like I cannot mistake it unless I try to. And I know they can't. They just don't want to wake up. They want to play the victim.
Right. Yeah. Some don't want to wake up, but you know what? If they don't wake up, they'll just be saboteurs of their own ignorance. And it's something you can't worry about. You can't worry about it. I can't worry about it. You help the ones that want to be helped. But the ones that don't want to be helped, man, you just got to, like Eddie Kendrick said, keep on trucking, baby. You just got to keep on trucking, man, and doing the best you can. But let's talk about sign language for you, and we're going to end the stream in a minute. I'm going to hear from Mr. O. But when were you a victim of sign language, and how did sign language impact you in a negative way?
Well, there's so many different, I don't know where to start on it. The shaming language, the shaming tactics, I understand that's maybe what that is. It's to the point to where it motivated me to just start speaking up and defending myself verbally and otherwise. And I've gotten so good at it. I've even had racial slurs come at me and other people on the CV, and I've come to other black men's defense, and I've buried those racists verbally on the CV. They have no rebuttals when I speak. It's like I mentioned in the chat, when I speak the truth, it's like trampling serpents. I like trampling serpents with the truth.
Okay. All right. So you don't have no comments about you personally dealing with sign language?
That's how I deal with it. If it's having to do anything with shaming language, weak rebuttals, they trying to silence me to go back to the plantation and just take it up the rear. No. I'm gonna give them the boot.
Respect, no doubt. I appreciate it, man. Mr. O, real quick, are you there, brother? Are you there, Mr. O? Are you there, Mr. O? All right, I think Mr. O stepped away. All right. So, guys, this has been a great show. Shout out to the Angry Man. Anybody else want to comment on sign language and how they've been impacted by sign language? And if you have been impacted by sign language, feel free to come on the stream and share your story. How have you been impacted by sign language? Are there any other brothers that have been impacted by sign language?
I'm back now.
There you go, Mr. O. So, I'm going to end the stream in a minute, but anything else you would like to add to the conversation about how you've been impacted by sign language?
Oh, how I've been impacted by sign language? Oh, okay. Friends, family, growing up in the city of Chicago, educational system, working in the environment in the city of Chicago, and both low-wage jobs and corporate jobs. Sign language is pretty much dominant with the B-dub.
Right.
She cannot function without sign language, especially in my presence, because I'm a very logical, reasonable person. And since I was raised as a millennial to believe in equality, I will let you have equality. But I am an equal opportunist. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. What y'all think y'all can get away with, I agree, and should men do it too? Yes. Until we get back in order, I say do as you please. Y'all doing the same thing.
Right. Do you see the trajectory getting worse or better, man?
Worse.
What are you seeing that's a sign, if sign language is a sign of the times, what do you see getting worse about sign language?
Well, gender roles is basically kaput. Evidently, black folks, men or women, don't know how to do anything with each other, let alone by themselves. A lot of people look at us like what we are here to do for anyways, besides entertain. So are we still them same people that we say we are? Are we them entertainers? Are we them court gestures? Hasn't Maury, Jerry Springer, even our own Oprah make a mockery for us over a 40+ year period? Haven't we basically make hip hop culture turn into a minstrel show and call that our culture? So when you try to tell them about building a family together, you can't even have a reasonable debate with anyone, man or woman, because their whole culture is rooted in taking each other out, backstabbing, deleting each other's babies or each other, period. Not nation building, everybody got to get for self, but when we do for self, we don't think about the other man or our sisters. So what's the whole point? Hey, they label me as a nihilist. I'll say, look, in order for y'all to get correct and get right, y'all must cut ties, know who your actual people are, band with them like O.W. Gurley did, build a community of your own to y'all liking with your own rules, boundaries, and set the standard. And keep anyone that do look like you or not out for about 20 years. And let's see how that thrives. One thing, and this not to go ahead to harm or bash women, because I do not do that, but I was kicking ballistics in actuality. Women are survivors. Men are thrivers.
Right.
Who lasts the longest?
Well, no doubt. Eugene Allen, how would you like to add to the conversation? And we're going to sign off in a minute, man. We're talking about sign language, and was Kevin right? Was that Kevin Samuels right about sign language? How would you like to add to the conversation, Eugene? Eugene Allen. There you go, brother. How you doing? How you doing, sir? Go ahead.
I would agree that Kevin was right. I heard it all my life, from people in the neighborhood to my own mother. So it's definitely a means to they use to control. So they break you down just to build you up in the fashion they see fit. Oftentimes, prime example, I bet you can't lift that for me. I don't think you can do this for me. Well, off the break, you're telling me I can't do it. And as a man, I feel like I want to provide or provide a service. So, okay, I got you. I'm gonna do it.
Right.
Like oftentimes it's such subtlety to their language that we don't pick up on it as men.
Right.
We don't. Know? And the whole time they're manipulating.
It's manipulation. Right. How have you been a victim of sign language, and what did it do to you mentally as it relates to your self-worth as a man?
When I was younger, my teens and 20s, on a previous episode, I mentioned that the fact that I did everything I could, and I thought I was doing the most. If I can make 100,000, I'll change my life and my family's life. I made that money, and after it was all said and done, nothing changed.
Right.
So I was so far down in the rabbit hole that I couldn't tell what was going on.
Right.
So how it affected me, I can definitely say that being young, growing up without a male role model or father, I thought I was doing what I was supposed to, but the whole time that wasn't it. I was doing their bidding.
Right.
So
right. And when you say doing their bidding, what does that mean?
I went from living in my own home with my wife and my children to my mother-in-law moving in, to supporting my mother, to supporting my family, my mother and her mother, now supporting her family's friends, and so on and so forth. But the whole time I'm thinking I'm doing what a man's supposed to do.
Right. Sound like it was never enough. Shout out to my man Farron Williams for that $5 super sticker. Thank you, Farron Williams. When you think about Aunt Esther, man, some would argue that she was the arbiter of sign language. Did you get berated like Aunt Esther often would berate her husband? What form of sign language did you get as it relates to being berated as a man?
I'm sorry, Coach. We talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you, Eugene.
Oh, okay. My ex-wife, when I first got into the electrical trade, my ex-wife berated me, telling me that me working all the overtime and learning this trade is not the same as a dope boy.
Wait, hold.
Yeah.
Pause.
She said what?
Pause. Don't say nothing else. Don't say nothing else, Eugene. Hold tight. We're gonna hold tight. Don't say nothing else, because we're gonna see if we're seeing some of the same things that we saw and with Aunt Esther berating Woodrow and berating Fred Sanford, even though we know it was comedy. But hold tight. Let's go back to this, because Aunt Esther was the arbiter of it. She was guilty of it.
Fish-eyed fool. You miserable old snagger-tooth jackass. You ignorant old bum. You beady-head old pickle-eyed fool. You are unholy sinner and a heathenish foul Philistine. You bean-eating bear hugger. You a heathen, Fred Sanford. Old senile heathen. I'll unscrew your arm from your shoulder and beat your brains out. You just keep sucking on that sucker. And when I pull your chain, you borrow. Woodrow.
So that's emasculation, classic emasculation. We laugh at it when women berate men. We laugh at it when women challenge the masculinity of a man. We laugh at it when men are emasculated. But go back, Eugene, brother Eugene, when you were talking about the emasculation that you went through when it come down to these dope boys. And did you know your wife was like that? And did you know it, but you ignored the warning signs as a man?
Initially, no, but they came out eventually. But we were already married. We had children at that point. The amazing part is, well, she let that come out of her mouth. Mm-hmm. Now, I was on track to make six figures, but I wasn't making six figures at that point in time. Mm-hmm. In her exact words to everyone else, you're considered lame, because I get up and I go to work. I have a job. I have a trade.
Wow.
I have a skill.
Wow.
And when I asked, like, what do you mean lame? She's like, you're not like a dope boy. You can't just provide a bag. I'm like, a bag? I'm building power distribution systems. Whoa, red flag. But me being young, I thought I could change things. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I may have a fatalist approach now, but I don't see our community ever changing. I don't see our community ever progressing.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I don't see it, Alan. Right. I don't see it either, man, because the culture is very backwards. When people say, "Oh, the community," it's dead for the most part. There's a remnant. There's a remnant of women, but those remnant women are getting disrespect as well. The young lady Chantel Simone has been getting death threats on TikTok. Because we live in a time, brother Eugene, where the gospel even said it, they won't love the truth. And, these are the same women that after, they get, ran through and have kids by multiple men, then they want you to come and be the cleanup man. And so many guys fall for that sign language and they try to please women. They want to please women by trying to do what the dope boy do, because the dope boy has quick money. And they like the Raekwons and the Man-Mans when everything is all good. But even Raekwon and the Man-Man are simps because they've been raised by single mothers. And many times they many times they have that mindset like this.
Yeah, put chain on them balls on my mom. They be broken balls. Kill some of my mom. Bro, they back me look like
Gang, that's on my monkey. Gang, that's on my monkey. Gang, that's on my monkey.
And so many of our young men get caught up in that negative trap, that dark vortex where they try to do things because of their mama. I was a correction officer in the past. Many men are in prison, in jail, or even dead because they tried to please their mothers by selling dope, or they try to please their woman by selling dope because they make her value more than their principle and masculinity as a man. And my heart goes out to you, Brother Allen, that you had to go through that. You would be a five-star recruit in another country like Thailand, the Philippines, even with Ghana. You know, my niece got married today. Her husband's from Ghana. They value men like you, IT fields and going to school and doing great things. They value men like you. But, you know, here in this country, we don't value that. We don't value intellectual brothers. Our worldview is off kilter, but they don't come to their senses until, you know, it's too late. They're old, and like Chantel said, you know, they got long titties for having babies by other men that were worthless. And then all of a sudden, you know, you want a good man to take care of your children and them, and you know, and it's a damn insult. It's really an insult that
it's
a man.
It's a goalpost moving for me when it comes down to being
brother.
a good man. You heard me? I'm about to go ahead and get back to work myself, but I was saying, like, it's a goalpost moving for me for what it requires of a good man. All right, so they say they want a man that's God-fearing, that's in the church, but have you seen the churches lately? How many so-called strong men are in the church?
Right. Not many. I agree.
Then they want you to make six figures. All right. In the 1980s, six figures was literally 100 to 150 grand. How far does that go? And even when some of these metropolitan cities, like my own in Chicago, not very far, that six-figure man gonna have to earn at least 250 grand bare minimum. And we already know the comforter lifestyle with technology, internet, and everybody want to live the rub elbows with the who's who. So now that same man has to earn at least 350 grand. And what do you have to give to this man that stayed out of trouble, the lot of the gratification, made himself into somebody, especially by Black and American standards? What do he gets as his supposedly prize? A heavily opinionated woman that probably can't at least lift 100 pounds if her life depended on it. Some of them don't even want to cook anything, even instant stuff that comes from a box. Let alone they want to get the same credence like Big Mama, who cooked everything from scratch. Ladies, do you understand that washing machines back in the day was actually putting your hands inside of a scrubber, rubbing your elbows to the your so-called fingernails came loose? That was housework.
That was housework, right?
What you could do actually throw some clothes into a machine, press a button, walk away, watch some Love and Hip Hop for a half an hour to an hour, come back, laundry done. Cooking probably take about 2 hours, 5 hours max, depending what you're cooking.
I agree. Right. And you know, you made a very good point, Mr. O. Women now have more than their aunts and their grandmothers had. You're right. They used to. I remember growing up as a kid. They had those old wash machines where you would put the towels in, and it was like a stone mill. You had to scrub it, hand scrub it, then put it in the little stone mill, squeeze the water out. They got more modern appliances that their ancestors and their mothers still had, and those women still could run circles around them. And so
Created by who culture?
By men. By men.
Men are the more caring principle. We have actually thought and cared about y'all to the point we have advanced modern world with cars, appliances that will go ahead and take the stress off of your back to make sure that you become and rest in your femininity for us, so we can relieve the stress of dealing on with the regular world. But we got to the point that not only did we gave y'all a foot, we gave y'all a whole mile with a delusion that you could do everything on your own where nobody go ahead and check you for it. If men could walk outside right now and just do what he do his down will, what would happen? He would either meet a violent death by street dudes or by the so-called police. You, on the other hand, she don't know no better. She was young and dumb.
I'm sorry. Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Eugene.
I'm about to go. Salute to y'all. Gotta get back to work.
Yeah, I'm about to go too. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Mr. O.
Thank you, sir. At this juncture, I have no interest in watching this anymore. Just let it burn. in my opinion.
Right. Yes.
As men,
I agree.
we provide all the comforts. Well, to quote Kevin Samuels, men have civilized the world so much to the point where they feel as though they don't need you. Well, if that's the case, then stop, because your efforts, your energy is not appreciated anymore. So even the Bible says, "Don't cast your pearls before swine."
Before swine, right. Before swine,
So
right.
why keep going? Why keep fighting in this direction just to say that, okay, quote Mr. Palmer, your mama black? That's not enough anymore. I'm not. My story is not anything unique at all. I've met a lot of men through this red pill YouTube space that have all been through similar things. Black, white, Asian, Latino, Spanish, like you name it, we're all going through it.
Right.
So what happens when the people who keep this world going decide to say, I'm done?
Right. And they're checking out, man. The millennials and zennials are getting it. You know, Gen Xers, we were the last generation that believe in love and romance, and the boomers. But the millennials and zennials, they don't care, man. They don't care. They're checking out because now, you know, Eugene, the rate for virgins are actually going up. And I want to bring you on, man, and tell your story. You got a very powerful story. My heart goes out to you. You've been through a lot, man. You talked about having a fatalist mindset now. Do you date women from other cultures now? And also, did your ex-wife regret or try to come back to you after you guys went through a divorce?
She did.
Wow.
And there was nothing that she could say to me, because at that point in time, I was a Christian man, and I was taking my kids to church while she was laying in bed.
Oh,
Sunday.
wow. Are you serious?
Yeah. So after it was all said and done, I couldn't go back to that. There was nothing that anyone could say that would draw me back to that. Like I was out of the game. I was out of the matrix. So I was done. Yes, my mindset may be considered more fatalist, because I don't see our people coming out of this, at least ADOS, Black people. I don't see it happening. I really don't.
I don't see it either, man. I don't see it. Listen, you think that way because you are an engineer and you understand the intricacy in the wiring. It takes a generation to change, or several generations to change a culture. You might have a remnant that's doing the right thing, but overall, it's dead. It's been dead, you know, because it's years of liberal indoctrination, and the liberal indoctrination is sign language, and you know, you can see a trajectory or a trend, but the trajectory is not getting better. It's getting worse. And you know, the delusion, Eugene, man, is crazy. You know, it's so crazy. There's so many that are so delusional, man. And when you try to bring it to clarity and bring it to common sense, many don't want to hear it. Go ahead. You say you want to say something. Go ahead.
I'm a year outside of Gen X. I'm 39. I'll be 40 soon. From what I see, from the generation, the millennials, like, we were raised, you don't hit a woman, so on and so forth. I live in the DMV. They're throwing them out of windows. It's a completely different culture from.
Hold on. What do you mean throwing them out of the windows? Explain.
There was a young lady that was thrown from the 7th floor window. They bound her legs and threw her out of the window.
Are you serious? What was that about?
I don't know, but the younger millennials, they don't have the same mindset. So these women have to understand, like, the same games that you're playing, or that were played on individuals in our age range. You can't do that to the younger ones coming up, because they will Rajay Black you. It's terrible. Like, it's getting worse. And that's why I said I don't see us coming out of this, because all the bad behavior has trickled down to the point where the millennials and the zennials, they don't care anymore. So there's no longer any love and compassion. And they keep going through the same cycle over and over and over again. It was a news story on Fox 5. Like, you can look it up. It's bad out here. And I don't think women really realize how bad it's really getting.
No, they don't realize it, man. You know, and that's why I'm so glad my niece got married.
Her husband, he's actually an engineer like yourself. He was in the military, and I was so blessed to be around those beautiful Ghanaians, man. Their culture is so different. I'm going to do a show soon. So many people derided Anton Daniels for saying that black culture is trash, and they didn't look at it in its broader context. The origin of the original, like when you and I were kids, black culture was powerful, but black culture as it stands now, oh yeah, we don't. It's garbage, man. It's garbage compared to the culture of the past. And Anton was right when you look at it in the broader context. It's trash, and it's getting worse, man. And because now anytime you're trying to bring clarity, balance, and common sense, you're met with derision, you're met with anger, you're met with vitriol. And I see so much dysfunction, man, as a clinician, man. I had to take a break to recuse myself because it'll stress you out, brother. It'll really stress you out. Go ahead.
Coach, I wish we were better than we are, or we were in a better position than we are. But it's bad out here now, and I don't see it getting. I don't see it getting any better. And I love my sisters, but the game's over now, because the same children that they raised have turned on them, but they don't see it. Not yet. It's coming, and the world is becoming more and more, for where I stay in the DMV, it's becoming more and more scary. Prices are still going up. People are being put out. You have tent cities popping up everywhere. And it's not just men. No. It's whole families and women.
Wow, really? So you're seeing tent cities now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow, man.
And that's in D.C.
In D.C., really?
That's our nation. Yes, sir. That's our nation's capital. You can see it. It's right there. And everyone walks past like they don't see it. You can keep pretending, but ladies, I'm trying to tell you, the black community has always been the canary in the coal mine. Get ready. Stuff's happening. And I hope y'all are ready for what y'all asked for.
Yeah, go ahead. Hold on for a minute, Gene. Hold on. Shout out to my man Top Gun. He said, this is why this platform is so important. Other content creators shame us for having our own personal experiences and make it seem like we are in Neverland. Your ex-wife, did she ever get another man as good as you? And I know that's subjective, and then I'm gonna let JJ speak, and then we're gonna end it. But did she ever say, you know what, I messed up, but I never got another man as good as you?
No, she just told me she was jealous, and why she pretty much explained why she did what she did, but by that time it was already over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she let me know that she was jealous of my success, so she sabotaged.
Wait, hold tight. Hold tight. Oh, Eugene, yes, listen, man, listen. I want you to get all your stuff together. I'm gonna take this clip, and I'm gonna probably call it, she loved the dope boy more than a working man or something, because what you're saying is powerful, man. I want you to come back at some point. Reach out to me at kosherclinician@gmail.com or send me your number in private and your email address. I'm going to reach out to you. I want to do a special show with you, and I want you to break down the chronicles of your story. You will be a special guest for the Manhood Chronicles. I want to have you as a special guest telling your story from a spiritual perspective and the things that you went through and where you're at now, because a lot of these young men need to hear that. You got a powerful testimony, man, because I'm sure you were probably, you thought about deleting, I don't know if you felt like deleting yourself, but I'm sure you were very depressed many times. And so send me your number, Gene. Do you mind doing that? And your email. Can you do that for me?
Yes, sir.
Send me your number and your email, and I want to have you as a special guest, you and maybe 3 or 4 other men. I want you to tell your story and what they did to you, because that's why I do the Manhood Chronicles, man, for men to tell the story and tell their pain. So, that's wow. She was jealous. Did you guys hear what Mr. Allen said? And I told you guys that's why they want guys like Raekwon the Man that say, it's on my.
Yeah, put chain on them balls on my mom. They be broken balls. Kill some of my mom. They back me look like gang. That's on my monkey. Gang. That's on my monkey. Gang. That's on my monkey.
Yeah, they want guys like Raekwon the Man to say it's on their mama because they want to control you. They are intimidated by your success. They don't want to concede to your power as a man. And you got to come back, because if we're gonna break this thing, we're gonna have a classic show just for you and a few other guys. But if it's you solo, I'm gonna dedicate the show to you, man. You know, we might put a little Roberta Flack on it, man. You know, because man, that's powerful, man. Had a good man, but she was jealous of a man and tried to sabotage it because she couldn't control you, and that lets you see why many of our men are checking out and dealing with women from other cultures, man. Yeah, what is that? That's your dog? Okay, all right. So yeah, JJ, go ahead, brother. We're gonna end the stream, man. Go ahead, brother JJ.
Shout out to Eugene, brother Eugene. Sorry to hear that what you're going through. You was mentioning something in Matthew. That's Matthew 7:6. Cast not your pearls before swine, unless they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. Some versions say rend, rend, means the same thing. And these women it seem like they like bots, like they programmed in the mind, but it's a spiritual thing going on with them. And they sold out through the modern forbidden fruit, the welfare state, and they required them to kick the man out of the house. And the abortions. They rebel against God. They lay around like stray cats. They're not loyal. No, cats are not loyal. Dogs, they say dogs are more loyal than cats. That's symbolic in why they say that. That all these natural disasters. And if you read Joel chapter 3 and Isaiah chapters 65 and 66, it shows a lot. A lot's going on, and God is pleading for his people. He's shaking things up. And these women is going to get caught with their pants down, so to speak. Because they want to wear pants because they want to be men, a lot of them, instead of women.
Right. No, yeah, it is rebellion. A lot of it is rebellion. Black Man Unfiltered. You know what? You got a powerful story too. I want to interview you, Eugene Allen, and a few other brothers because your story is very powerful too. Black Man Unfiltered went through a lot of dark stuff as well. So Black Man Unfiltered, reach out to me, brother, because I want to do a show with you and Eugene. You guys got a powerful testimony, man. These men need to hear your stories because part of the Manhood Chronicles is men telling their story in pain. So, Gene, go ahead on and put your information in the private chat for me, Gene. Your email and your telephone number so I can reach out to you, brother, okay? And I want to bring you back, all right? If you can do that for me real quick.
Yes, sir.
All right. So once again, guys, this has been a great show. These shows are important. Real quick, Eugene, while you're putting that in, what did you gather from the show listening to it in the background, and how was it refreshing to your mind?
It was a reminder of what I dealt with pretty much growing up, and also just how things are. Like it shouldn't be this.
I don't know. I think he fell off. All right. Well, listen, JJ, I'm about to sign off, brother, man. Thank you for popping in, man, and adding insight and clarity, man. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad you joined in, man. And do me a favor, share the stream and share the content. But we're about to sign off, guys. And it's been a great show. Join me on tomorrow. I got another fire one for you. I got another fiery show because I am the kosher clinician. I count it a pleasure, guys, to do this.
Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician.
No doubt I want to drop that fire for your mind. But we're about to sign off. Brother JJ, thank you, brother, for coming in. And guys, we're about to sign off, and I will see you guys on tomorrow. And, as I said before, these shows are very important. And if men want to become and get the best outcomes, then they got to be more consistent with loving themselves and doing the right thing that's best for themselves and their community. I told you guys that there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And one of those 7 steps is understanding female psychology and how female psychology can impact your mind, body, soul, and spirit. True to form, Kevin Samuels often postulated the point called sign language: shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. And even though it was forwarded by BGS based on what Snuggles said, and Snuggles, watch your mouth in the future with that, you people, I like you, but you keep doing that, you're gonna get this work. Pun intended, no pun intended. But shout out to BGS and shout out to him for giving Kevin so much clarity and insight. And guys, like I say, I love you guys. And thank you, Snuggles, for the clarity. Even though your mouth got a little slick, thank you for the clarity. And guys, we got to continue to be the clarion callers and love ourselves, because we live in a time where things are dark and things are getting worse. But the men that are in the ship of Zion will be saved as it relates to the soul, mind, body, and spirit. So anyway, guys, it's been a great show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got another classic on tomorrow. And guys, I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. We're signing off, and I will see you guys on tomorrow. Be well.
Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways, to the point it's led over into your social life, and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well.
All right, guys. All right. We're about to sign off.
Tell them run it off. I wake up. Yeah. I wake up, flex, thumb down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell them run it off. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it off. I wake up, flex, thumb down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell them run it off. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it off. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies.
And off again, I want to thank Douglas Somerville. Douglas Somerville, I meant to show you love. Thank you, Douglas Somerville, for that $10 cash app. Thank you, brother. I didn't want you to think that I forgot you. I got so caught up with the stream. But Douglas Somerville, thank you, sir. And thank you for your kindness. I really appreciate that. So once again, guys, we're signing off. Be well.
4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say like I work in finance. God bless, no, it's not by chance. Don't dab me, you're not my man. Don't at me, you're not my man. Mama said don't buy it if you cannot buy it twice. I cop by the tools and I don't pump fake with the price. Always on the grind, I put in work with all my might. I know that he got me, not by sight. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt identities, I slide out landings. All black like show though. Grinding from the grip, no shame, take a photo. Time to take a trip, we head north to the border. Say you feeling up, I'm my favorite type of hoarder. I got kids to feed, I got enemies, I got God's gift, so they envy me. Got some friends down Memphis like I'm Aubrey. Got some friends fought for orange like some autumn leaves. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt like Vanish, I slide out Landish, Vito Benji, all black like Batman. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt like Vanish, I slide outlandish, Vito Benji, all black like Batman. 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 Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Watch out for those who surround you, need no funny kind. You can't see what's on my brain, I live inside my mind. Out of space and out of sight, you need me in my line. Need no face, don't need no phonies, no. Need no snakes, no only homies down for show. On go. Get a book and get the front end, we load up and roll. I got kids, yeah, I got staff, I make a little need more. I sell records, you sell packs, not on my level, no. I'm a pop star, I'm a rock star, I'm a one. Think I'm not hard, you smoke rock, hard waste, man, why you dumb? I'm with airline, we on airlines like we on the run. I'm with Tay, girls run up on me, they done. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my.
Ma jolie, oh ma jolie. Yeah. Every time I come around you, baby girl, something doesn't feel the same. You said that I'm changing, but it's really you. I see how you play those games. Wifey type for a main man. A queen can make moves, a king can't. Snatch you up, now you taking. Gave you bricks, now you building a wall up. Lately you and I've been all love. I don't know what's up with our love. You forgetting all about us. Oh, my jolie, oh my jolie. Where are you when I need you the most? You still MIA. This is murder, heart is melting. Girl, you got me. Called your bluffing, made you something. Now you talking. Telling me to cool it off. How can I cool it off? Telling me to cool it off. How can I cool it off? My jolie, oh my jolie. My jolie, oh my jolie. You don't turn on me now. You don't get no time for me now, babe. Got him on a rebound. But it's only you that I like, babe. Tout ce que j'ai fait c'était pour toi. Sur le haut parle mais t'écoutes pas. Tu me vois crever mais tu bouges pas. Pourquoi? Whoa, yo, wall up. You can't even get the scars up. For us, I don't know what's up with our love. You forgetting all about us. Oh, my jolie, oh my jolie, where you been? When I need you the most, you still MIA. This is murder, heart is melting, girl, you got me. This is called your bluffing, need you something, now you talking. I call you bluff. You telling me to cool it up, cool it up. How can I cool it up, cool it up? Telling me to cool it up, cool it up. How can I cool it up, cool it up? My jolie, oh my jolie. Girl, you got me. Called your bluffing, made you something, now you talking. You telling me to cool it up, cool it up. How can I cool it up, cool it up? Telling me to cool it up, cool it up. How can I cool it up, cool it up? Cool it up. I don't know how to cool it up. My jolie, oh my jolie.
I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I might rent the Lambo and go drive it like it's stolen. I've been living wild, I'm just going through the motions. Stumbling out the Uber, grabbed my hand, gave me the notion. Swimming in your water, but it feels just like the ocean. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I was sipping Moet for 2 years straight to the face. Champagne belly bubble still won't go away. Last year my best man hit a stain with bare face. Now he's got a LB on the water's cold case. I wake up with pain sometime and never go away. Wonder why I balance to my knees when I pray. In my city gritty, gotta keep it on your waist. Or you might be a victim, they'll find you DOA. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie.